is lecture 18 of Indian Polity, and we shall discuss state machinery. We discussed union executive and union legislature. Union executive consists of president, vice president, prime minister, council of ministers, and the attorney general for India. In the similar fashion, we have the state executive as well. State executive, because the same form of parliamentary democracy that we have at the center, the same system exists in states as well. State executive consists of governor, chief minister, council of ministers, and advocate general of the state. In order to be appointed as the attorney general for India, what is the qualification? This person should be qualified to become the judge of the Supreme Court. He should not be the judge of the Supreme Court because that would violate separation of powers. But he should be qualified to become the judge of the Supreme Court. For the advocate general of a state, a person, in order to be appointed as the advocate general, this person should be qualified to become the judge of a high court, not the Supreme Court, because advocate general is at the state level. Same functions as performed by attorney general at the center are performed by advocate general at the state. For example, if there is a case filed against the state government, who is going to represent the state government before the courts? That individual is the advocate general of a state. Any legal advice, if it is to be given to the governor, any advice as to what are the kind of bills to be passed, in a sense, is this bill better? Can we make it more constitutional? This advice, legal advice to the state government, is given by the advocate general of a state. Clear? For example, in Keshavananda Bharti versus State of Kerala, the advocate general of Kerala was representing the state government before the Supreme Court. Done? And to assist advocate general, we have additional advocate general, we have deputy advocate general, and these are the individuals who assist the advocate general of a state in performing his or her duties. That is it that you need to know regarding advocate general. Similarly, we have chief minister and council of ministers. Whatever is true for prime minister at the central level, council of ministers at the central level, that holds true for chief minister and council of ministers at the state level. What are these important facts? After the election is over, the governor has to appoint the chief minister. And in appointing the chief minister, the governor has a discretion, which we will discuss today. But only on the advice of the chief minister, other council of ministers can be appointed, just like at the center. The advice tendered by council of ministers and the chief minister is binding on the governor. Whether that is true or not, we will discuss that separately in the office of the governor. On the advice of the chief minister, the chairperson of the State Public Service Commission, the advocate general of a state, the chairperson of the State Finance Commission, all these important appointments are made. So whatever holds true for chief minister and council of ministers at the state level, that is true for prime minister and council of ministers at the central level. Prime minister, chief minister and council of ministers, they are responsible to the legislative assembly, accountable to the legislative assembly. But governor cannot be equated with the president. We say president is a rubber stamp, but we say governor has more powers. We say president only enjoys influence. The governor enjoys influence as well as power. That is why the office of governor we will discuss separately in great detail. But if you have understood union executive in terms of attorney general, in terms of prime minister and chief minister, just replace prime minister and council of ministers at the central level with the chief minister and council of ministers at the state level. Answer is same, because the same parliamentary democracy that we follow at the central level, we follow at the state level as well. So you don't have to discuss these matters, concepts separately. But when it comes to state legislature, union legislature, parliament consists of, Article 79 says, the parliament consists of president, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. Done? In the similar fashion, the state assembly or the state legislature consists of governor, legislative councils where they are present, and we will discuss which are these states where they are present, and the legislative assembly. We will first discuss what is a legislative council and legislative assembly. Then we will jump to governor, and state machinery chapter is over. Legislative assembly. Constitution has not prescribed the strength of a legislative assembly. For example, what is going to be the strength of Lok Sabha? 543. What is going to be the strength of Rajya Sabha? 245. Or maximum strength is 552. Maximum strength is 250. That's something which is prescribed in the Constitution. But Constitution has not prescribed what is going to be the composition of a legislative assembly. It varies from state to state. And clearly depends upon the population of that state. But Constitution has prescribed a range that minimum the strength of the legislative assembly should be 60. That means there should be 60 MLAs in a state legislative assembly. And maximum it can go up to is 500. We have UP, for example, with 403 seats. We have Karnataka, for example, with 229 seats. So it varies from state to state. But even here, there are exceptions. There are some states, for example, Goa, states such as Sikkim, states such as the smaller states. These are the states where we have less than 60 MLAs as well. So although Constitution has prescribed a range that minimum we should have 60 MLAs, maximum you can go up to is 500. But there are some states where we have exceptions. Goa, Sikkim, for example, where we have less than 60 MLAs. But then every 5 years, general elections are held. For example, general elections are to be conducted in the state of Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Mizoram. And in this general election for that state, the entire state is divided into constituencies. And from each constituency, one candidate is to be elected. Because in legislative assembly, we also follow first past the post system. And once the elections are over, all these MLAs are elected. These MLAs become part of the legislative assembly. But what is the qualification? For someone in order to contest the elections to a legislative assembly? One, you should be the citizen of India. B, must have completed 25 years of age. C, should be a registered voter in any assembly constituency. Of the state. Should not hold any office of profit. You have to contest assembly elections in Telangana. If you are a citizen of India, you have completed 25 years of age, your name is mentioned in the electoral rolls of any assembly constituency in Telangana, you are eligible to contest, you are qualified to contest elections to Telangana Legislative Assembly. But you should also not be holding any office of profit. And once you contest elections, you win the elections, you remain in office for a period of 5 years. Because what is the term of a legislative assembly? Just like Lok Sabha, the term is for 5 years. But even before 5 years, you may also be disqualified. And same grounds of disqualification which exist for the members of the parliament, same grounds of disqualification for an MLA as well. Disqualification on the ground of if there is a change in the nature of citizenship, if you have been adjudged insolvent, if you are declared mentally unfit, if you are holding an office of profit. So all the grounds on the basis of which an MP is disqualified, those grounds exist for an MLA as well. You can be disqualified as an MLA on the grounds of violating anti-defection law as well, which we will discuss today. Legislative Assembly composition is not fixed. It varies from state to state. Minimum we can have 60, although there are some exceptions. Maximum we can have 500. Clear? And how are these MLAs elected? Every 5 years, election takes place. If you are qualified, contest election, which is done through first past the post system. You get elected and your normal term is for 5 years. And even before completing 5 years, you may be disqualified as well. Who presides over Legislative Assembly? Speaker. In absence of Speaker, who presides over Legislative Assembly? Deputy Speaker. In absence of Deputy Speaker, who presides over Legislative Assembly? The panel of chairpersons. Same system that we follow in Lok Sabha, we follow in Legislative Assembly as well. Money bills can be introduced only in Lok Sabha. Money bills can be introduced only in Legislative Assembly. Financial bills can be introduced only in Lok Sabha. Financial bills can be introduced only in the Legislative Assembly. Which means even at the state level, the budget is passed. Even at the state level, we have the consolidated fund of a state, where all the money which is raised by the state government, all the investments which are raised by the state government, all the loans which are taken by the state government, they get deposited where? In this account known as the consolidated fund of the state, which is a constitutional fund, just like consolidated fund of India. And any money that you want to withdraw from this fund, you require approval of the Legislative Assembly. And how can you get the approval of the Legislative Assembly? By passing a bill. And what is that bill? That bill is the appropriation bill. That bill is a money bill. Similarly, if there is a bill which talks about money matters, but plus non-money matters as well, that is a financial bill. And this financial bill also can be introduced only in the Legislative Assembly. So whatever holds true for Lok Sabha holds true for the Legislative Assembly as well. This topic is done. Because if we follow parliamentary system, both at the center as well as the state, same set of parliamentary system. But Legislative Council cannot be compared to that of the Rajya Sabha. Why? Now listen to me carefully. What is going to be the composition of Rajya Sabha? Again, this is something which is not mentioned in the constitution. It varies from state to state. But constitution has prescribed a range. And what is that range? Minimum we can have 40 MLCs, members of the Legislative Council. Maximum we can have 1/3 of the strength of Legislative Assembly. So if Legislative Assembly has 300 MLAs, if the Legislative Council is provided for that state, minimum it can have 40, maximum it can have 1/3 of the strength of the Legislative Assembly, which is 100. That is the composition. There are 6 states in India where we have a Legislative Council. Which are these states? Andhra, Telangana, Maharashtra, Bihar, UP, and Karnataka. These are the six states where we have legislative council. But now you can ask a question. Sir, why only in these six states? Why not in other states? Constituent Assembly, which drafted our constitution, debated this. And ultimately, it was left to states. If a state in India wants to have a second chamber of the state legislature, they can do that. If not, we will follow unicameral legislature at the state level. Because at the central level, we have a bicameral legislature, which has two houses, Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. At the state level, should we have unicameral or a bicameral legislature? Constituent Assembly said we will leave it to the states. If the states want two houses for their legislature, they should be allowed to do that. Otherwise, we will follow unicameral legislature at the state level. And that is why there are six states in India which have agreed to, which want to have a second chamber, which is the Legislative Council. That is why we have only six states in India where we have a bicameral legislature, where we have two houses of the state legislature. How are these MLCs elected? And what is their qualification? Just like Rajya Sabha, if you are a citizen of India, if you have completed 30 years of age, if you are a registered voter in that state, if you are not holding any office of profit, you are qualified to contest legislative council elections. You are a citizen of India, you have completed 30 years of age, you are a registered voter in any assembly constituency of the state, and you are not holding an office of profit, you are qualified to contest MLC elections. And once you contest MLC elections, the term is 6 years. The tenure of an MLC is 6 years. Otherwise, Legislative Council, just like Rajya Sabha, is the permanent house of state legislature. Just like Rajya Sabha is the permanent house of the state legislature of the union legislature, in the similar fashion, we have the Legislative Council, which is the permanent house of the state legislature, which means it is not subject to dissolution, which means it is not dissolved. There is no term of a legislative council because legislative council exists forever. But there is a term for an MLC, and your term is 6 years. And even before 6 years, you may also be disqualified. And same grounds of disqualification as they exist for MP of Lok Sabha, MP of Rajya Sabha, MLA of a legislative assembly, the same disqualification grounds exist for the MLC as well. But elections are different. How are elections different? Some members elected by MLAs, some members nominated by governor, from the fields of art, literature, science, social service, cooperative service. Some members are elected by local bodies, Some members are elected by graduates, some members elected by teachers. If legislative council, just like Rajya Sabha, is the permanent house of state legislature, if the minimum age to contest the election is 30, this is where the similarity of legislative council and Rajya Sabha ends, because then it is something unique. In Rajya Sabha, we have only two types of members: those elected by the state assemblies, MLAs, and those nominated by the president from the fields of art, literature, science, social service. But when it comes to the legislative council, when you look at the legislative council of these states, you will find that there are some MLCs who are elected by the MLAs. So Andhra Pradesh MLAs, they will vote to elect one third of the MLCs in the legislative council. Some members are nominated by the governor on the advice of the chief minister. Those individuals from the state, those registered voters of the state who have made good contribution in the fields of art, literature, science, social service. Now cooperative service is also mentioned for an MLC. The governor can nominate these MLCs. Then there are some who are elected by the local bodies. For example, we have Panchayati Raj institutions. It's a local body, which we will discuss. We have municipalities, which are local bodies. That means in rural areas, we have Panchayati Raj institutions. In urban areas, we have the municipalities. Their members, they also elect, they also come together to elect some of the MLCs. Then there are graduates constituency. That means all those who are graduates in that state, all those who have performed education levels of 10 plus 2 plus 3, you are a graduate. Whether you are an arts graduate, professional graduate, technical graduate, medical graduate, doesn't matter. You are the graduates. All the graduates put together will form a constituency and they will vote to elect the MLCs, some MLCs. And then there are others who are the teachers. Whoever is teaching in the state at the state level for schools about 10th standard at the secondary level, you form a constituency. And only those who are teachers teaching about 10th standard, you are a voter, you will elect some of these MLCs. So we see beautiful composition of this legislative council. Some elected by the graduates, some elected by the teachers, some elected by the local bodies, some elected by the MLAs, some nominated by the governor from the fields of art, literature, science, social service, cooperative service. This is where we see the uniqueness of a legislative council. But this legislative council, we have the chairperson, we have the deputy chairperson, and then we have a panel for legislative council. Who is the chairperson of Rajya Sabha? Vice President of India. But at the state level, we don't have a position of a deputy governor or a vice governor. There is no such position. That means, in absence of the vice president, who will preside over, or in absence of vice president, in absence of the vice governor, deputy governor, who will preside over the meetings, the sessions of the legislative council? That person is the chairperson. In absence of the chairperson, deputy chairperson. In absence of the deputy chairperson, a panel. But who is this chairperson? Who is this deputy chairperson going to be? Both these individuals are elected. Elected by MLCs by simple majority. And they can be removed as well if the MLCs pass a resolution by effective majority. And both the chairperson as well as deputy chairperson, these are MLCs. So once MLCs are elected to legislative council, Now, one amongst these MLCs can be elected by the MLCs as the chairperson. One amongst these can be elected as the deputy chairperson of the legislative councils. And there also we follow a convention. The MLC can be, the chairperson can be from the ruling party, but the deputy chairperson then should be from the opposition party. Clear? But what is the role? How these legislative councils are created? Creation and abolition of legislative councils. Let's assume for a while that we have West Bengal. And let's assume for a while that we have Andhra. West Bengal is a state where we do not have a legislative council. Andhra is a state where we have a legislative council. Let's suppose we have to create a legislative council for West Bengal. Who can create it? Parliament. How Parliament can create a legislative council? By passing a law. If we have to abolish legislative council for Andhra Pradesh, who can abolish the legislative council? Parliament. How can Parliament abolish a legislative council? By passing a law. So who can create a legislative council? Parliament. Who can abolish a legislative council? Parliament. But sir, you are confusing us. Why? Sir, you said previously Constituent Assembly in its debates, they said if the state wants a legislative council, it should be free to do that. If the state does not want a legislative council, we should not force it. So the state should decide whether they want to have a legislative council or not. What is the role of the parliament? Ultimately, it is created by the parliament, abolished by the parliament, but based on the resolution of the state. West Bengal Legislative Assembly, because it has a legislative assembly, will pass a resolution by two-third majority. West Bengal Legislative Assembly will pass a resolution by two-third majority. Basically doing what? Requesting Parliament that dear Parliament, please pass a law so that you can create a legislative council for West Bengal. But this resolution is not binding on the Parliament. If the Parliament wants, it can pass a law to create legislative council for West Bengal. If the Parliament does not want, it may not pass a law to create a legislative council for West Bengal. But without this resolution, Parliament cannot initiate this process. That is why we say it is left to the states. But what if Parliament decides that this state is very poor? The state is unable to raise its own money, generate its own resources. If we will provide legislative council for that state, it is going to be additional burden on the state exchequer, on the state revenue. There is no need. That is why we will not create a legislative council for you. We will not accept your resolution because your resolution is not binding on us. But if the Parliament accepts, then the West Bengal Legislative Assembly will pass a resolution by two-third majority, basically requesting the Parliament, please enact a law for the creation of the Legislative Council for West Bengal. This resolution is not binding on the Parliament. But if the Parliament says, okay, Parliament will pass a law, and through this law, Legislative Council shall be created for West Bengal. And this law shall not be deemed to be an amendment to the Constitution. Although you are amending the constitution by providing West Bengal also as a state with a legislative council, because that is to be mentioned in the constitution. But constitution itself says when you make such change, these changes shall not be deemed as amendment to the constitution, which means you don't have to resort to Article 368, which means when Parliament will pass this law will be passed by what type of majority? Simple majority. Simple. Same is the process when you have to abolish a legislative council. Andhra Pradesh legislature should pass a resolution. Andhra Pradesh Legislative Assembly, Andhra Pradesh Legislative Council, they should pass a resolution by two-third majority. This resolution should basically request Parliament, can you please pass a law so that you can abolish Legislative Assembly for Andhra Pradesh? If the Parliament says okay, Parliament will pass a law and abolishes the Legislative Council for Andhra Pradesh. But if the Parliament says no, this resolution is not binding on us, we will not pass such a law, Legislative Council for Andhra Pradesh will continue. That means constitution. When we look at the state machinery, we can break it down into state executive and state legislature. State executive consists of governor, chief minister, council of ministers, and the advocate general of the state. Chief minister, council of ministers, similar to prime minister, council of ministers at the central level. Advocate general, similar to attorney general, with a difference that you should be qualified to be appointed as the judge of a Supreme Court in order to be appointed as the attorney general. But you should be qualified to be appointed as the judge of a high court in order to be appointed as the advocate general. State executive is done. But the office of governor is still to be discussed because that is the most important office. And in the state legislature, just like we have union legislature, which consists of president, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, in the similar fashion, we have the state legislature, which has governor, who is an integral part of state executive as well as state legislature, just like president, who is part of the union executive as well as the union legislature. And we have legislative councils and legislative assemblies. Legislative council, what is their utility? There are some who say legislative council should be abolished. And there are others who say legislative council should be strengthened or they should not be abolished. If they should be abolished, for that we need to understand what is their utility, what is the job that they perform, what is the task that they perform. Let's understand the legislative process. For example, we have a bill. Bill is a proposal. That means at the state level, the state legislature has the power to make a law on any item which is mentioned in the state list, such as law and order, police, land. These are the important subjects on the basis of which on these subjects laws are made by the state legislature. Let's say there is a bill which talks about some matters related to land, some matters related to agriculture of a particular state. If this bill originates in legislative council, it has to then travel to legislative assembly. Assume that legislative council has passed this bill. This bill travels to the legislative assembly. Legislative assembly also passes this bill. Is there any dispute? No. Is there any deadlock? No. Both houses agree with the bill. Very good, problem solved. But what if legislative council passes a bill and legislative assembly rejects that bill? Bill is dead. No joint sitting. If a bill is originating in the legislative council, passed by legislative council, passed by legislative assembly, problem solved, the bill is passed, there is no dispute, no deadlock. a bill originates in Legislative Council, is rejected by Legislative Assembly, the bill is dead right there. It will never become a law. And there is no such thing as joint sitting of the two legislatures of the state. Which means Legislative Council has an inferior legislative role. When it has an inferior legislative role, why should it continue? Abolish it. In contrast, let's say the bill originates in the Legislative Assembly. The bill should be passed by all the organs of the state legislature. That means the bill should be passed by both houses of the state legislature, where legislative councils are present, and then signed and assented by the governor. Once this process is over, the bill becomes an act, it becomes the law of the land. Let's say a bill originates in Legislative Assembly, is passed by Legislative Assembly, then sent to Legislative Council. Legislative Council says, okay, we accept this bill, the bill is passed. Is there any problem? No. Legislative Assembly passes a bill, Legislative Council rejects a bill. In this case, when the Legislative Council rejects a bill, what will happen to this bill? This bill will go back to Legislative Assembly. Now, if the Legislative Assembly has passed this bill again, and the Legislative Council says, I am again rejecting your bill, what will happen to this bill? The bill is passed. Legislative Assembly passed a bill. This bill was sent to Legislative Council. Legislative Council rejects this bill. This bill will now go back to Legislative Assembly. MLAs are furious. How dare you reject our bill? We will pass the same bill again. When they pass the same bill again, this bill traveled to Legislative Council. Legislative Council MLCs are happy. Oh, this is the same bill which we rejected. We will reject it again. But now this time MLAs are laughing, smiling. Why? Because this bill shall be deemed to have been passed by both houses of the state legislature, because Legislative Council cannot reject this bill again. The bill is passed. Which means this Legislative Council has an inferior role. Why should it continue? Another permutation and combination. Legislative Assembly passes a bill. Legislative Council Assembly passes a bill. Legislative Council amends this bill. What will happen to this bill? The bill is amended and now it travels back to Legislative Assembly. If Legislative Assembly passes the same bill again, this bill will be sent to Legislative Council again. Legislative Council is again adamant, amends this bill. The bill is passed without the amendments made by Legislative Council. Legislative Assembly passed a bill, sent to Legislative Council. Legislative Council said, we will amend this bill, and they amended the bill. Now this amended bill travels back to Legislative Assembly. Legislative Assembly MLAs, they are furious. How dare you amend our bill? Let's pass the bill again. They pass the same bill again without considering the amendments of the Legislative Council, and then this bill goes back to Legislative Council. MLCs are laughing. This is the same bill that we amended, but they have dropped our amendments. They have passed the same bill again, which they passed previously. We will amend it again. Now this time MLAs are laughing and smiling. Say, this bill is passed even without your amendments because your role is inferior. Now, what is the other option that Legislative Council can have? Legislative Assembly passes a bill. Legislative Council says, if we pass this bill, the bill is passed, but we want to teach them a lesson. But if we reject this bill, even then, once the bill comes back again, we have to pass it. If we amend this bill, what if these amendments are not acceptable to Legislative Assembly? They will pass the same bill again. We have to accept it. Even if we don't accept this, our role is inferior. The bill is still passed. We will not act on the bill. Mr. Anandu is saying, sir, you are marking the wrong columns. You are looking at the... Now I think you will be able to understand. Clear? So the columns are right. Now, what are the other options available with Legislative Council? Legislative Council may not act on this bill. It's not acting, not acting, not acting. 3 months are over. After the expiry of 3 months, this bill goes back to Legislative Assembly. Legislative Assembly is furious. How dare they keep our bill pending for 3 long months? We will pass the bill again. And then this bill goes back to Legislative Council. Legislative Council says, how dare you pass the same bill again? We will not act on this bill again. 1 month is over. The bill shall be deemed to have been passed by both houses of the state legislature. Which means maximum that a Legislative Council can do, it can delay the passage of a bill by 4 months. 4 months means 3 months first time, 1 month the second time. That is the maximum that a bill can be delayed by the Legislative Council. And for that we need a Legislative Council? No, please abolish it. There are people who say that this Legislative Council, it's a burden on state finances. Chairperson of Legislative Council, Deputy Chairperson of the Legislative Council, these MLCs, their salary, their allowances, their vehicles, their bungalows, it's a huge burden. And what is the role that they play? Nothing. Maximum they can do is they can delay the passage of a bill by 4 months. And if a bill they initiate, it is rejected by Legislative Assembly, this bill is dead. It can never become a law. For this reason, we want to provide a Legislative Council. It is a huge burden on the state finances. Abolish it so that the money that we can save can be used for various social security schemes, can be used for the welfare of the marginalized sections of our society. Abolish Legislative Council. We don't need it. Third, who are its members? When we look at the composition of the Legislative Council, who are these members? Failed politicians, who are to be rehabilitated. Majority of these MLAs majority of these members of the Legislative Council, when we analyze their data, who are these individuals? Basically failed politicians. I am a politician. I lost the Legislative Assembly election. But now I am crying like a baby to my party bosses. No, I want to be part of the legislature. Why did you do this to me? No, I need a car. I need a vehicle. I need a bungalow. No. I said, okay, don't cry. Send him to the Legislative Council. So Legislative Council is like now a retired home for failed politicians. I am no longer eligible, or I am no longer worthy of contesting an election to be elected to the Legislative Assembly. I was a minister previously, but now I am to be rehabilitated. Give him something so that we can keep his mouth shut, so that we can focus on our party and our government, so that he doesn't trouble us. Send him to Legislative Council. Legislative Council is now becoming the retired home for these politicians who are not contesting elections now, who are not worthy of contesting elections. So why should we give a beautiful, expensive retirement home for these failed politicians? Abolish Legislative Council. But then there are others who say Legislative Council should continue. Why it should continue? Number one, because of its uniqueness in terms of its composition. In legislative assembly, we have only one type of members elected. But in legislative council, look at the diversity that it represents. It represents MLAs as well, because some members are elected by the MLAs, some members are nominated by the governor, some from the local bodies, some from teachers' constituency, some for graduates' constituency. So this is like a beautiful bouquet of different diversity that is present in that state. For that reason, it should continue. Not just that, second, it can delay the passage of a hasty bill of the legislative assembly. Just like Lok Sabha, legislative assembly is the popular chamber of the state legislature, because these MLAs are directly elected by the people. They are directly accountable to the people as well. What if they pass a law catering to the public opinion, but this is a wrong law, a bad law, a horrible law? If it is passed by the legislative assembly, which is the popular house, it will then go to legislative council. Legislative council, like the house of elders, will delay the passage of the bill, will calm the tempers of the people, and ultimately delay it by 4 months, and public memory is short-lived. They would not even reconsider that bill. For that reason, legislative council should continue. Not just that, legislative council gives opportunity to have ministers, even chief ministers, who are not MLAs. Shri Uddhav Thackeray, appointed as the chief minister by the governor. He was neither a member of legislative council nor was he a member of the legislative assembly. But then he got himself elected or nominated to the legislative council, continued as the chief minister. Mr. Yogi Adityanath previously was the member of the legislative council. Mr. Akhilesh Yadav was the member of the legislative council. That means legislative council should also exist because it supplies us with ministers. There may be talented individuals, but who may not go and contest elections, who may not get into the dust of contesting elections, the trouble of contesting elections. But nevertheless, these are talented individuals. They are sent to legislature through this route of legislative council. And then they become chief ministers. Then they become ministers. For that reason, it should continue. Legislative assembly, legislative council. But now we have to discuss the office of governor. And this is the most important office. That is why we will discuss it in great detail, covering all aspects relevant for prelims as well as mains. Whatever we have covered till now, barring the utility of legislative council, is mostly relevant for the prelims examination. State governor. How is this governor appointed? How is the governor removed? What are the powers? What are the functions? What are the controversies? Every state has a governor. According to the law, who is the head of the state government? It's the governor. But by the fact of it, in reality, in practice, we have the chief minister who is the head of the government. Sir, how is MLC elected? MLC is elected in the same fashion as the MP of Rajya Sabha is elected. That means MLAs will vote through ballot paper, proportional representation system by means of single transferable vote providing preferences, and then we have the MLC elected. That is at the state level. That is at the legislative assembly level. At the graduate level, all the graduates, they will form a constituency, they will vote. These elections are conducted by the Election Commission of India. So every teacher is who has registered as a teacher will have the right to vote to elect some of these MLCs. So that is all managed and organized by the Election Commission. This governor is an integral part of legislature as well as executive. Just like the president is an integral part of executive, an integral part of the legislature. We call governor the first citizen of a state. But this first citizen of the state wields influence, wields power. How? For that, let's look at what are the qualifications in order to be appointed as the governor of a state, because governor is not elected, governor is appointed. Who appoints the governor? President. But president appoints governor not under his discretion. It is not the discretionary power of the governor to appoint anyone as the governor. It is not the discretionary power of the president to appoint anyone as the governor of a state. Basically, the president appoints governors to the states only on the advice of the prime minister. But who is qualified to contest, to be appointed as the governor of a state? You should be the citizen of India. You must have completed 35 years of age. These are the only constitutional provisions. That means if the question is asked in the examination, which of the following are mentioned in the Constitution as the qualifications for someone to be appointed as the governor of a state? There are only two qualifications mentioned. If you are a citizen of India, if you have completed 35 years of age, then you are qualified to be appointed as the governor of a state by the President of India. But over a period of time, two conventions have also developed. What are conventions? Unwritten rules. Not mentioned anywhere, but something that we follow. What are the conventions? Number one, this governor should be a non-resident. And number two, chief minister shall be consulted. If a governor to Karnataka is to be appointed, this governor should not be from Karnataka. Why? Because if this person is from Karnataka, you are from Karnataka, Mr. Siddaramaiah as the chief minister is also from Karnataka, you may want to interfere in the day-to-day activities of the chief minister, in the day-to-day functioning of the government, because you are also a localite, the chief minister is also a localite, and then there will be a tussle, because both will be competing for the affection of the people, for the support of the people. If the governor is from the state to which he or she is to be appointed, then she will mostly interfere in the regular affairs of the government, which is not good for democracy. Why? Because you are appointed, chief minister is elected. So convention has developed, although it is not mentioned in the constitution. But the convention is, whenever a governor to a state is to be appointed, this person should be a non-resident. He or she should not be from the state to which he or she is appointed. And chief minister should be consulted. Consult the chief minister that this individual we are thinking of making governor to your state. What are your thoughts on this matter? Are you okay? No, you can tell me, please. whatever you say. I can even change the name. But over a period of time, both these conventions have been violated. A governor to Karnataka was appointed, and he was from Karnataka. Multiple governors to Jammu and Kashmir were appointed, and they were from Jammu and Kashmir. Is that a violation of the constitution? No, because constitution mentions only two qualifications. You are a citizen of India, you have completed 35 years of age, you are qualified to be appointed as the governor of a state by the president. Second, chief minister shall be consulted. But the problem is, if there is a different party in power at the center and there is a different party in power at the state, this different party at the center advises the president, which is binding on the president, appoint this person as the governor of that state without consulting the chief minister. The chief ministers come to know through media that somebody has been appointed as the governor of our state. Chief minister is not consulted at all. And this is what is causing friction between the chief minister and the governor, something we have witnessed in the recent past. But originally, there was governor appointed for every state. That means one governor per state. But Constitution was amended, 7th Constitutional Amendment Act, 1956. Same governor can be appointed to more than one state as well. A governor of a state can be appointed as the governor of another state as well. So we may have one governor for two states or one or more states. This was something which was not allowed previously, but Constitution was amended, 7th Constitutional Amendment Act, 1956. A governor of a state can be appointed to more than one state as well. But this governor holds office during the pleasure of the president. That means Constitution says, what is the tenure of the governor? 5 years. That means if I am appointed as the governor today, I shall remain in office for 5 years because my term of office is 5 years. But that is subject to the pleasure of the president. If the president is satisfied with me, I will continue. If the president is not satisfied with me, I have to resign or I will be sacked. And this is not the personal pleasure of the president. This is basically the pleasure of Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. And it is this doctrine of pleasure which is also creating a lot of problems in India's democratic setup, which we will discuss slightly later. Article 163, it talks about there shall be a council of ministers with the chief minister at its head to aid and advise the governor, who shall act on that advice, except when the governor has to act in his discretion. Constitution is clear, but at the same time ambiguous or deliberately ambiguous. If this is the governor of a state, let's say this is the governor of Tamil Nadu. You are appointed by the president for a period of 5 years on the advice of the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. But at any point in time, you can be sacked, you can be replaced, you can be transferred, because although your term is 5 years, but you hold office during the pleasure of the president, which is basically the pleasure of the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. But what are your powers? What are the roles and responsibilities that you play? Why do we say that the governor wields not only influence but power as well? Because of Article 163. Constitution says there shall be Council of Ministers with Chief Minister at its head to aid and advise the governor, who shall act on that advice. Just like we have Article 74. There shall be Council of Ministers with Prime Minister at its head to aid and advise the President, who shall act on that advice. Which means whatever advice is given by Chief Minister and Council of Ministers to the governor is binding on the governor. Just like whatever advice is given by Prime Minister and Council of Ministers to the President, that is binding on the President. But then Constitution talks about some ambiguity. In all cases, the advice of the Chief Minister and Council of Ministers is binding on the governor. That means governor cannot act on his own. Governor is always bound to act on the advice of the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers, except in those cases when the governor has to act in his discretion. Except in those cases where the governor is not bound by the aid and advice of the Chief Minister and his Council of Ministers. And which are these cases? Not defined. Which are these instances where the governor has to act in his discretion without the aid and advice of the Chief Minister and his Council of Ministers? Not defined. When it is not defined, it leads to conflict. Conflict how? Because the Constitution says, if at all tomorrow there is a doubt as to whether this is the discretionary power of the governor or not, the word of governor shall be final. Which may mean in reality, Chief Minister and Council of Ministers of Punjab advising the governor of Punjab, please call the session of the Legislative Assembly. Just like Council of Ministers at the central level advise the President, please summon Parliament, and it is binding on the President to summon the Parliament. But look at the wording of Article 163. Every advice is binding on the governor. Advice of the Chief Minister and Council of Ministers of Punjab to the Governor of Punjab, please call the session of the Legislative Assembly. I am not calling. Sir, my advice is binding on you. I know. Sir, why are you not calling the session of the Legislative Assembly? Because I am acting in my discretion. Sir, how can you act in your discretion? Because the Constitution wants me to, gives me that power. There shall be Council of Ministers with Chief Minister at its head to aid and advise the governor. But sir, it mentions who shall act on that advice. Yes, it does. Except when the governor has to act in his discretion. But sir, how is this your discretionary power? Because discretionary power is not defined in the Constitution. But sir, then there is a dispute. And the Constitution says, if at all there is a dispute, the word of the governor shall be final and binding. Which means, what are my discretionary powers? I get to decide. And that word is final. It's like the word of God. Sir, I will go to the court. Okay. And because the Constitution is not clear, or because the Constitution is deliberately ambiguous, we have to go to the courts every now and then. There shall be Council of Ministers with Chief Minister at its head to aid and advise the governor, who shall act on that advice, except when the governor has to act in his discretion. Which are these discretionary powers? Not defined. But Constitution says, if at all there is a dispute as to what constitutes the discretionary power of the governor, the word of the governor shall be final. And this is where it leads to lots and lots and lots of problems. You may not have witnessed any conflict between the governor of UP and the Chief Minister of UP. Because of Chief Minister of UP is from a political party, and the same political party is in power at the center. So the same political party appoints somebody who does not trouble my party man. You will not have witnessed or read any conflict between the governor of Haryana and the Chief Minister of Haryana. The governor of Madhya Pradesh and the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. But when the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh was Kamal Nath, we saw the conflict. Because Chief Minister was from Congress, the governor was appointed by the BJP government at the center. Where are we witnessing these conflicts? between the governor of Tamil Nadu and the chief minister of Tamil Nadu, between the governor of Telangana and the chief minister of Telangana, between the governor of Punjab and the chief minister of Punjab, between the governor of West Bengal and the chief minister of West Bengal. And if there is one thing which is common, is that all these states are ruled by the opposition, a different political party as against the political party which is at the center. And the principal problem is that this discretionary power has not been defined, and the governor uses his discretion and sometimes misuses it, abuses this discretion. How? In choosing the chief minister. 2017, election was held in Karnataka. No political party got the majority. But BJP emerged as the single largest party, with close to 104 seats, but it was still short of the majority. Two other political parties, JDS plus Indian National Congress, they decided to come together to form the government. And both of them together had the majority. Mr. Vala, who was previously the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Gujarat, when Mr. Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, now Mr. Vala was the Governor of Karnataka. Congress and the JDS approaching the governor. BJP's Mr. Yediyurappa also approaching the governor. Yediyurappa saying, give me the opportunity to form the government. Because in appointing the chief minister, you have a discretion. Because Constitution says the chief minister shall be appointed by the governor and all other ministers shall be appointed by the governor only on the advice of the chief minister. But in appointing the chief minister, the governor is using his discretion. But JDS and Congress said, look at our numbers. Both of us have the majority together. These are the MLAs who are with us. BJP does not have the majority. Governor said, no, but you see, I have to invite the leader of the single largest party to form the government. If you would have won the election, I would have appointed you. But nobody has won the election. In this case, I will go by the convention. Whatever the governor was following previously. And we have seen that governors in all the states, they are following. If in case there is a hung assembly where no political party has the simple majority, then in this case, I have to first invite the leader of the single largest party to form the government. Mr. Yediyurappa, you are appointed as the Chief Minister of Karnataka. Okay. If the governor would have been appointed by the Congress government at the center, then this combination would have been appointed as the Chief Minister. But be that as it may, same time elections in Goa, same condition, hung assembly, no political party with the majority. But this time, Indian National Congress is the single largest party with 17 MLAs. The leader of the Congress approaches the governor. Please appoint us, sir. Thank you so much. Please appoint us. Give us the opportunity. Make us the Chief Minister. But this time, BJP, Maharashtra Gomantrik Party, and various smaller parties, they also approached the governor. Srimati Mridula Sinha, give us the opportunity to form the government. Governor is basically telling them, but what should I tell people? Why are we appointing you and not Congress? Said, we'll give you an excuse, but you appoint us. The governor decides to invite the leader of the BJP to form the government in Goa. Congress is crying, madam, how can you do this? Sir, madam, the convention is that you have to invite the leader of the single largest party to form the government. Say, don't use this language. In Karnataka, you are saying, give us the opportunity to form the government, not the BJP. BJP is the single largest party. Here you are saying, invite the leader of the single largest party. What is this? I can also do the same. Said, madam, but invite us. That's the convention. If you can follow that in Karnataka, you can follow it here as well. Said, see, I don't worry about what's happening in Karnataka. I'm worried about the stability of government to the people of Goa. People of Goa needs a stable government. If you can show me the numbers that these are the majority of MLAs who support you, I will invite you to form the government. But the other party has come with its supporters, with its other allies, and they have come up with the document showing that these are the MLAs who support us. On paper, it looks like only this combination can give the stable government. You see, I'm all for the people of Goa. I want them to have a stable government. BJP, you please form the government. In choosing the chief minister, there is a discretion. But ultimately, it goes against the will of the people as well. Where an unelected individual gets to decide who is going to run the state, not just in choosing the chief minister, in testing the majority as well. Mr. Yediyurappa told the governor, but Governor Wala, I need some time. See, you appointed me, maybe you got a phone call, otherwise you have no affinity towards me, but I need time because, you see, God's honest truth, I have to break the political party. I have to give them money to break them, to help them cross over. So I need some time. Governor says, how much time do you need? Maybe a week, 10 days? That should be more than enough because we have a lot of money. Governor says, no, don't worry. I got a call from Delhi. I'll give you a month. In 1 month, you have to prove the majority. That means the floor test in 1 month. Mr. Yediyurappa, you are appointed as the chief minister. Now you can continue as the chief minister as long as you have the majority, the confidence in the legislative assembly, and you have got 1 month to prove. The governor appointed to a different state, Kamal Nath, was asked to prove the majority in 7 days. Said, why 7 days? Yeah, because if you think you have the majority, so what's wrong? Prove it in 7 days. Because you're accountable to the legislative assembly. I cannot have a government which is in minority. I need a stable majority government in the state. You have to prove the majority in 7 days. But if the government is from your own political party, which has appointed you, then you give him more time. Because you're acting in your discretion. In dismissal of the chief minister, Karnataka example again. And this is something we will discuss today, the landmark case, which strengthened to some extent federalism in India. S.R. Bommai. S.R. Bommai, he was the chief minister of Karnataka. Suddenly some MLAs, they wrote to the governor that we are withdrawing support to S.R. Bommai, which gave a sense that S.R. Bommai has lost the majority and therefore he should resign. S.R. Bommai quickly approached Raj Bhavan, the official residence of the governor. Sir, you may have received some letters saying MLAs are withdrawing support to me. Yes, I have received 12 such letters. Sir, those letters are fake. This is the signature of 9 MLAs. 9 of them are saying we have not written this letter. But you are dismissed. Sir, you're dismissed. Sir, but why? This letter is fake. You're dismissed. Go. Sir, but you can't dismiss me. I have appointed you. I can dismiss you as well. But sir, you cannot dismiss a government which has the majority. You don't have the majority. I've got the letters. But sir, these letters are fake. You are dismissed. I told you. Don't come here. Dismissed. But how can a chief minister be dismissed without getting his majority tested on the floor of the legislative assembly? You don't have to test your majority in the office of the Raj Bhavan. You have the test majority on the floor of the legislative assembly. S.R. Bommai is pleading before the governor, give me the opportunity. I will prove majority on the floor of the legislative assembly. Governor said, you are dismissed. Go out. Get lost. I've got the call from Delhi. Discretion. In dissolving the legislative assembly, the classic example, 2018, Jammu and Kashmir. BJP withdrew support to the PDP government. Now we don't have a government. When we don't have a government, then what do? We give the option to various political parties, give time to them. Maybe they will come together to form the government. Once the governor is sure that now no government would be possible, then it is normal for the governor to dissolve the legislative assembly so that fresh elections could be conducted. And now Congress PDP, National Conference, smaller parties, they approach the governor, or they want to approach the governor, that we have the majority, give us the opportunity to form the government. BJP and another political party known as People's Conference, headed by Sajad Lone, they also say we have the majority, give us the opportunity to form the government. Governor is not meeting them. A fax is sent by Mehbooba Mufti to governor, saying I have the majority, claiming I have the majority, give me the opportunity to form the government. Governor dissolves Legislative Assembly. Governor was told, but why did you dissolve Legislative Assembly? You have got the fax from Mehbooba Mufti that she has the majority. See, my fax machine was not working, so I did not receive the fax. So when I did not receive the fax, I don't know who has the majority. When nobody has the majority, I am dissolving the Legislative Assembly. Let fresh elections be called, if at all the Election Commission will hold elections. In dissolving the Legislative Assembly, in recommending President's rule, Governor misusing his discretion, which has happened in Arunachal Pradesh, which has happened in Uttarakhand, which has happened in Bihar as well, in reserving bills for President's consideration. So many bills passed by Telangana Legislative Assembly, and the governor Tamila is not acting, not signing. Madam, please sign the bill. I will not. At least say you are using veto. No, I will not. I need time to read these bills. So many bills passed by Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly. Governor Ravi saying, if it was in my power, I would not sign these bills. Which basically violates the core concept of basic structure, which is federalism. And the problem is with Article 163. There shall be Council of Ministers with Chief Minister at its head to aid and advise the governor, who shall act on that advice except when the governor has to act in his discretion. But since these discretionary powers are not defined, anything can be a discretionary power of the governor. Because the Constitution says if there is a dispute as to what constitutes the discretionary power of the governor, the word of the governor is final. Then why have the Chief Minister? Why have the Legislative Assembly? Let this governor run the state. This governor appointed by the center. So convert the entire federal constitution into a unitary constitution and let this unelected governor appointed by the central government to a state run the state. Why do you need the Chief Minister? Why do you need the Legislative Assembly? Why do you need democracy in a state if the governor has the power to do this? That is why Sarkaria Commission, which was appointed in 1983 on center-state relations, because this bickering between the governor appointed by the center and the state chief minister, it has the tendency to strain, to impact negatively the center-state relations. Sarkaria Commission was set up in 1983. It took 5 years to submit the report. In 1988, it submitted the report, and we are in 2023. Towards the end of 2023, this report has not been acted upon. But Sarkaria Commission's recommendation vis-a-vis the Office of Governor, if implemented, will solve a lot of problems that we are facing right now. What did Sarkaria Commission recommend? A person to be appointed as a governor should satisfy the following criteria. Criteria number 1, he should be eminent in some walk of life. Who has been the best president India ever had? Perhaps APJ Abdul Kalam. Why? He was not a politician. He was eminent in some walk of life. An eminent scientist, creator. Despite no background in politics, he became the most popular Indian president ever. With due respect to all the governors that we have. But who are these governors today? Retired politicians who are to be rehabilitated. Ms. Najma Heptullah, a minister at the central level under Prime Minister Modi, crossed the age of 75. Although there is no age limit, even at the age of 1000, you can become the Prime Minister, you can become the Chief Minister, you can become the Minister. But there is a self-imposed age limit prescribed by Mr. Modi. Although not mentioned anywhere, not written anywhere, but something that we assume. Because we haven't had a minister above the age of 75 continuing for a long time. There have been some instances where a minister till the age of 77 was appointed, but very soon he was removed. So 75 is considered to be the self-imposed retirement age for ministers at the central level. Self-imposed, not mentioned in the constitution. Najma Heptullah crossed 75. She's retired now. We need to rehabilitate her, send her to Northeast State as governor. Mr. Vala, he was the speaker, now he is to be rehabilitated. Send him governor of Karnataka. We have minister, previously Karnataka. We have a minister who has completed the age of 75. Send him to minister to another state. You may still be a politician, but you should be eminent in some walk of life. Raj Bhavan today, unfortunately, is occupied by retired politicians who are meant to be in Rajya Sabha for rehabilitation. That goes against the spirit of Sarkaria Commission recommendation. You should be eminent in some walk of life. This person should be from outside the state, 100%, so that this person does not influence the day-to-day activities. He should be a detached political figure and not too intimately connected with local politics of the state. Assume for a while that we have Mr. Kailash Vijayavargiya, who is right now contesting MLA elections from Madhya Pradesh, the General Secretary of the BJP. He said, I was shocked when I saw my name in the list of candidates contesting the election, because at this stage, it should have been my son, because BJP is against dynastic politics. And my aspirations are different. I want to be minister at the central level. Basically, I see an opening at the central level. But I got the opportunity, I got the command from the central high command to contest elections. I will contest elections. But previously, he was the general secretary in charge of BJP in West Bengal. So he was basically handling BJP's campaign in West Bengal. And it was a very bitter contest between the BJP and the Congress in the 2019 parliamentary elections, where a close, strong fight was given by BJP to the TMC. Imagine Mr. Kailash Vijayavargiya now appointed as the governor of the state of West Bengal. He knows the in and out of West Bengal politics. Every day he will interfere with Mamta Didi. In any case, even if anybody is appointed as the governor of West Bengal, he or she will interfere with West Bengal chief minister because it's the opposition. But Mr. Kailash Vijayavargiya will be more interfering than any other individual because he is intimately connected to the local politics. Such a person, according to Sarkaria Commission, should not be appointed. He should be a person who has not taken too great a part in politics generally, and particularly in the recent past. Why should only a politician be appointed? Why can't we have people from different walks of life who have not been attached to politics in the recent past? Somebody like me, appoint me as the governor of a state. I will abide by the constitution. I will not favor one party as against the other. And I'm not intimately connected with the politics in the recent past. Such individuals should be appointed. It is desirable that a politician from the ruling party at the union is not appointed as the governor of a state which is being run by some other party or a combination of other parties. When governor of Maharashtra was Mr. Bhagat Singh Koshari, and the government was of Congress, Shiv Sena, and the NCP, there was trouble. But the moment this combination changed and came Mr. Devendra Fadnavis, Mr. Eknath Shinde, suddenly there is beautiful working relationship between the governor and the chief minister. And the problem source is the same. When the ruling party at the center appoints its own party man as the governor of a state, but this state is ruled by the opposition or a combination of opposition political parties. In order to ensure effective consultation with the chief minister, the selection, this should be mentioned in the constitution by amending Article 155. We say there is a convention that chief minister shall be consulted before appointing someone as the governor. Why can't we make this consultation binding, mandatory, saying, yes, you have to consult the chief minister? Let's amend Article 155. Yes, final decision will still be with the central government, but at least consult the state. Consult Mamta Didi that these are the five names. You pick the name. Definitely, she won't pick Mr. Kailash Vijayavargiya or Mr. Subramanyam Swamy. Uh, Maybe she will pick Mr. Ram Madhav. Who knows? Ram Madhav is also from the BJP. But at least once you consult the chief minister, there is some sort of give and take involved, which strengthens democracy. And Sarkaria Commission said one reason why governors are doing the way they are doing is because they don't have security of tenure. The governor shall be appointed for a period of 5 years. The governor shall hold office during the pleasure of the president, which means at any point in time you can be removed. At any point in time, you can be transferred. When Mr. Modi came to power in 2014, barring three exceptions, I think the exceptions were the governor of Telangana and Andhra, because at that time they used to have a common governor, the governor of Odisha, or was he from Nagaland, and the governor of Jammu and Kashmir. These were the only three people who were left untouched. Otherwise, all the other governors appointed by the previous government, they were either removed or transferred. Ms. Sheila Dikshit, she was the governor of Kerala. Called, please resign. Okay. If I don't resign, we will remove you because we will withdraw pleasure. Okay, I will resign. I will go back to Delhi. There was one governor, Ms. Kamla Beniwal. She was the governor of Gujarat when Mr. Modi was the chief minister. And she and Mr. Modi would not gel with each other. There was a lot of conflict, obviously, because Kamla Beniwal was appointed by the Congress, Mr. Modi was from the BJP, and now Mr. Modi is the chief prime minister. Kamla Beniwal got the hint what is going to happen, but Mr. Modi said, or Mr. Modi assumed, that we will not sack you. We will do something else. So she was first asked to transfer to a northeastern state. And unfortunately, in India, a posting in Northeast is considered to be a punishment posting. And we claim Northeast is an integral part of India. Whatever it is, she was asked, pack her bags, sent to Northeast. That's your punishment posting. She said, okay, thank God. At least I was not sacked like Sheila Dikshit. I was not forced to resign. He packed her bags, reached Northeast, and there she sacked. What is the signal that you're sending to other governors? If we do not do what you're asking us to do, we will be sacked, we will be transferred, we will be removed. So governor of West Bengal or governor of Tamil Nadu or governor of Telangana, basically they get a sense that if we do not trouble the chief ministers, we will be transferred or we will be sacked. Give them security. Give them security of 5 years, and you will see that they will not do the bidding of the central government. They will remain impartial to the political establishment. But these Sarkaria Commission recommendations have not been acted upon. Then the fundamental question is, do we need the office of governor? And before we answer this question, we need to understand what is the origin of this office. We were under colonial government. And during the colonial period also, for example, in 1935, when the Government of India Act 1935 was passed, under this act, for the first time, elections were held in 1937. So election at the central level, election at the state level was also carried out. But even then, there was one officer, one individual who was appointed by the center, governor general. And any bill which is passed by the state can be vetoed by this governor general. I will not accept it. I will not pass this. I will not approve this. So the origin of the office of governor is the Government of India Act 1935, which provided these provincial legislative assemblies, the state legislative assemblies, with some powers. But any bill that they will pass can be vetoed by the governor. And when the Constituent Assembly had to debate whether this office of governor should continue or not, there were people who said, no, now we are a democracy. And we say we have a federal constitution. Why should this governor be appointed to a state? Why should this governor be appointed by center to a state? This appointee of the center will interfere with the state. Don't allow him. Don't appoint him. Abolish this office. K.T. Shah, one member of the Constituent Assembly, he said the governor would be inevitably biased in his functioning, and his actions would remain at odds with those popularly elected ministers. How prescient. How prophetic. That's exactly what is happening. Powers of the governor that we see in today's constitution are almost similar to the powers of the governor in the 1935 Act. There were some members of the Constituent Assembly who begged before the Constituent Assembly, don't have this office of governor because it's going to be at odds with the democratically elected chief minister and the ministers. Abolish this office. But Constituent Assembly ultimately settled for this office, said no, the office of governor should continue. Why? Reason number one, there's a dearth of competent legislators in India. We have just got independence. We are not even a fully literate state. We are not a fully educated country. We need this talented individual, a well-read individual, appointed by the center to a state, so that if there is dearth of talented legislators at the state level and they pass a bad law, a horrible law, this governor should be there to block it, saying, no, please reconsider this. For this reason, we need the governor. And a certain amount of centralization of power is necessary. What if there is a state government? What if there is a state legislature which passes a law saying we are no longer part of India? Or they do some actions which are against the national interest? There should be governor to stop this. So governor's office is required. Governor's office should continue despite objections by some members of the Constituent Assembly on two grounds. Number one, there is dearth of competent legislators in India. Number two, a certain amount of centralization of power is necessary. But then, there are those who say this office of governor is indispensable. We can't function without the office of governor. For example, during President's rule, under Article 356, which we will discuss today, when the chief minister is dismissed, when there is no council of ministers in a state, who will run that state? Governor. We cannot imagine any other individual performing this task except the office of governor. So for that reason, we need the governor. Similarly, in Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 areas, which we will discuss today, there are some areas where there is a significant tribal population. Those areas are administered as tribal areas. And it is the responsibility of the governor to ensure development of these tribal areas, to ensure that their interests are met, interests are taken care of, because the state may discriminate against them because they are in a minority. Who can we assume or imagine as somebody performing this task without or except the office of the governor? That is why we need the office of governor. So office of governor is indispensable. We need this office of governor. Perhaps if office of governor was not there, maybe the country would not have been united. Because even if there are secessionist tendencies, there may be areas where insurgency is taking place. The office of governor is responsible in sending this report to the central government that something fishy is going on in that state. So this governor is like the eyes and ears of the central government in a state. And there has to be someone who can communicate to the central government how the government is being run. That is why we need an office of governor. But the constitution is the document of people's faith and aspirations. It is the culmination, it is the end result of the democratic aspirations of the people of India. And it has got three major pillars. This constitution is based on universal adult suffrage. Anybody who is the citizen of India above the age of 18, you have the right to vote. Parliamentary system, fundamental rights. These are all expressions of these aspirations that we have. As people, we have the aspirations that all of us should vote. All of us should have fundamental rights. All of us should have a parliamentary form of government where we will elect our representatives and they are accountable to us. Would it not be better, for example, to clearly specify the rules governing government formation in the constitution itself and reduce the swearing in to a purely ceremonial action to be performed by the Chief Justice of the relevant High Court? What does that mean? One segment believes that office of governor is indispensable. We need this office of governor, period, full stop. And we have discussed that argument. Article 356, Schedule 5, Schedule 6 areas, eyes and ears of the central government in the state. All that is valid. But then there are others who say this discretionary power of the governor in choosing the chief minister is getting misused. And for that, we need the office of governor. Because they say, why is the office of governor required? Because we have to appoint the chief minister. If there is a hung assembly, the governor has to see who is going to form the stable government. That is why there has to be someone who should be the governor. This can't be a mechanical exercise. Because in case there is a hung assembly, the governor gets to decide who becomes the chief minister. Because not every time we will have a full majority for a political party after the elections. There are others who say, just for this reason we need governor who can misuse, abuse constitution. Why can't we reduce the swearing in of a chief minister to a merely ceremonial activity, affair, which can be performed by the chief justice? For example, who swears in the president of India? Chief justice. Who swears the chief minister? Governor. Why don't we replace governor with the chief justice? The chief justice of the concerned high court will give oath and secrecy to the chief minister. We don't need the office of governor. Abolish it. Instead, who will appoint the chief minister? Who will appoint the ministers? The chief justice of India, the chief justice of that high court. But this chief justice of a high court will appoint Mr. Yogi Adityanath as the chief minister. That much is understood. Why? Because Mr. Yogi Adityanath got the majority in the legislative assembly elections. The chief justice of a high court would have appointed Siddaramaiah as the chief minister because he got the majority. But in case there is a hung assembly, such as in Goa previously, such as in Karnataka previously, how will the chief justice decide of a high court who is going to be the chief minister? This set of people who say office of governor should be abolished, they say, let's amend the constitution. Remove every discretion of the governor in appointing the chief minister. And mention the sequence of events that the governor has to follow or that the chief justice of a high court has to follow in appointing the chief minister. Right now, the chief minister shall be appointed by the governor. This is it. And this leads to a lot of discretion for the governor. Abolish the office of governor. Instead, chief minister shall be appointed by the chief justice of a high court. But the chief justice of high court will appoint which person as the chief minister. Where is that mentioned? That should be mentioned in the constitution itself so that even this chief justice does not have any discretion. After the election, whichever political party has won the election, has got the majority, They will nominate their leader. And this Chief Justice, you have to nominate this leader as the Chief Minister. What if there is no political party with majority? Then alliance of parties that was formed prior to the election. For example, Maharashtra. Elections of 2019. BJP and Shiv Sena contested elections together. This is what we call pre-poll alliance. Congress and the NCP contested elections together. But once the election results were declared, no political party on its own got the majority. But the alliance got the majority. So BJP and Shiv Sena put together, they have the majority. But BJP alone does not have the majority. Shiv Sena alone does not have the majority. Congress will never have the majority. So in this case, if BJP would have the majority, Chief Justice of a High Court would have invited the leader of the BJP, you become the Chief Minister. If no political party has won the election, then what will the Chief Justice do? It should be mentioned in the Constitution so that there is no room for any dispute, no room for discretion. Invite the leader of the alliance that was formed prior to the elections. So invite the BJP and the Shiv Sena together to form the government. If it is possible, government is formed. But if BJP and Shiv Sena, who decided to split after the election, Shiv Sena said Chief Minister should be ours, BJP said no, Chief Minister should be ours, and they could not come together. So now even this pre-poll alliance is not possible. Who will form the government? The leader of the single largest party who will stake claim to form the government. Then the Chief Justice should appoint the BJP leader. Since you are the single largest party, we are inviting you to form the government. If even then you are not able to form the government, then a post-electoral coalition. After the election, if there is a coalition, which means Shiv Sena decides to come under Congress and the NCP. Now this alliance should be in a position to form the government. If this is not also possible, then an alliance, let's say, of Shiv Sena plus NCP, their members will be part of the government. Congress will support the government from outside. That means Congress will support the government, but from outside. They will not form the government, they will not join the government, but they will support the government from outside. What is this support the government from outside? Because if the BJP introduces a no confidence motion, Congress MLAs will vote against that motion, despite the fact that Congress is not part of the government, but it will save the government, support the government from outside, and will block the no confidence motions issued by the BJP. This permutation and combination, if it is clearly mentioned in the Constitution, where is the room for any discretion in the part of the Chief Justice? So abolish office of governor. We don't need him. Instead, if the power to appoint the Chief Minister is given to the governor, in absence of governor, who will perform this task? This should be reduced to a mere ceremony, nothing else, so that this ceremony would be performed by the Chief Justice of that High Court. And how will the Chief Justice of High Court decide who should become the Chief Minister? The sequence should be clearly mentioned in the Constitution so that there is no room for any doubt. Invite the leader of the party which has won the election. If such an individual does not exist, then pre-poll alliance. If they don't want to continue, then the leader of the single largest party. If he can't stake claim to form the government, if he does not have the majority, then post-poll alliance. If they also don't want to come together, then post-poll alliance with some members deciding to join the government and some deciding to support the government from outside. We don't need the office of governor. But then there are others who say, no, the office of governor should continue, but without politicizing the office of governor. Office of governor should continue, but without politicizing the office of governor. It should not be like the office of governor should continue the way it is. That would be an extreme step. Or the office of governor should be abolished. That also will be an extreme step. We have to find a middle ground. And the middle ground is implement Sarkaria Commission recommendations. That will go a long way in depoliticizing the office of governor. Not just that, implement Punchi Commission recommendations, which was again set up in 2007, headed by Madan Mohan Punchi, Justice Madan Mohan Punchi. What did the Punchi Commission recommendation say? The incumbent should stay away from active politics even at a local level for at least 2 years prior to his appointment. If I am to be appointed as the governor of a state, I should not have participated in politics at least for 2 years. And politics does not only mean I should not have been an MP or an MLA. Even at the local level, I should not have been involved in politics for 2 years. At least 2 years. There should be a say of the state chief minister while making governor's appointment. Just like Sarkaria Commission said, consult the chief minister. Make it mandatory for the central government to consult the chief minister. A committee should be formed that is entrusted with the task of appointment of governors. The committee may comprise the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, the Lok Sabha Speaker, and the concerned Chief Minister of that state. Sir, what will happen because of this committee? Because even then the majority is with the central government. Prime Minister part of the central government, Home Minister part of the central government, Lok Sabha Speaker part of the ruling party at the center, and then the Chief Minister. So if there is a meeting conducted in a room where we have these 4 people, 3 are on one side, 1 is on the other side, they will kill the chief minister. Said no. At least when this meeting is conducted, whatever is discussed in the meeting will be noted down. All the minutes of this meeting will be noted down. So people will get to know why this person was chosen as the chief minister despite objections by the chief minister. Why this person was chosen as the governor despite objections by the chief minister. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. If there is more transparency in the way things are done, in the way decisions are taken, it will reduce the amount of corruption involved. Deletion of doctrine of pleasure from the constitution. This is the most important ground. Because office of governor, if the tenure is for 5 years, but even before 5 years, you can be removed if the pleasure is withdrawn by the president, which is basically the pleasure of the Prime Minister. The term of appointment should be for 5 years. Governor could only be removed via the resolution by the state legislature. Let's say Tamil Nadu does not want Mr. Ravi to continue as the governor because he's interfering a lot. He's not signing the bills. He's attacking the Dravidian culture, according to the people of Tamil Nadu. I would not know. He is in a way also agreeing to the imposition of Hindi in Tamil Nadu. Whether that is correct or not, I don't know, but these are allegations. State legislature, if they pass a resolution, they should call for the removal of the governor. Just like if the President of India has violated the constitution, both houses of the parliament pass a resolution to impeach the president. In the same fashion, state legislature should have the option of passing a resolution saying, please remove the governor, recall the governor. Or recommendation of the provision for governor's impeachment by the state legislature. State legislature should pass a resolution telling the parliament, please impeach the governor, just like you impeach the president. A right of governor to sanction the prosecution of ministers against the advice of state government, this shall continue. There have been instances where the governor was giving sanction to investigation agencies such as the CBI, such as the state CID and others, that you prosecute the minister, even without consulting the chief minister. The chief ministers would be angry. How can you take this decision without my advice? Punchi Commission says, no, here you don't have to go by the advice of the chief minister because the chief minister would save his minister. The chief minister's advice to the governor whether to sanction the prosecution of a minister or not, this should not be binding on the governor. Because governor, whenever he feels that yes, there is an element of corruption involved, he should give the sanction to prosecute that minister, even without the advice of the chief minister. And then there is this practice. There is this convention. There are various states where the governor is the chancellor of the state universities, on which we saw a lot of conflict between, and my God, we forgot Arif Mohammed Khan, the governor of Kerala. He's always in conflict with the chief minister of Kerala, and particularly on the appointment of the chancellor of the state universities. Although there, I would say the governor is right. But again, on other matters, the governor and the chief minister, they have been bickering with each other, conflict with each other. But this practice of governors being the chancellors of the state university, this must come to an end, according to Punchi Commission, saying governor should restrict himself or herself with the constitutional role and not get involved in any other role. If these recommendations are accepted, it will go a long way in depoliticizing the office of governor. Then we don't need to abolish this office of governor. We just have to reform this office so that it does not lead to politicization. Any questions? Let me know. Then we will give a break. It should not be election, because if the governor does not have the real power, why should the same argument that we gave for indirect election of the president, the same argument we can give for the election of the governor as well? It's a waste of time and resources because governor does not have the real power. The real power should be with the chief minister. Tough politics. It started with a letter. The government of Punjab had selected some teachers so that these teachers could go on a training program to Singapore. Governor was not consulted. Obviously, governor should not be consulted because you are not the government. Government is with the chief minister and his ministers. The governor shot a letter to chief ministers. Explain to me, what is the criteria that you followed to select these teachers who would go on a teaching program in Singapore? Mr. Bhagwant Mann was a comedian. In a comic style, he shoots another letter. He shoots a reply to the governor. Can you tell me on what criteria was followed by the central government when you were made and appointed as the governor of the state of Punjab? Okay. Governor felt hurt and said, I'll teach you a lesson. And what is the lesson? Now, the Punjab Council of Ministers is advising the governor, please call the session of the state legislature. Governor is sulking. Governor said, I will not. First, you apologize. I said, what has that got to do with this? This is my advice. It's binding on you. Convene the session of the state legislature. I said, I will not convene. I have to take the legal advice because you seem to have offended me by writing that letter saying on what criteria were you appointed as the governor of Punjab? How can you speak to a constitutional functionary like this? Ultimately, matter went to the court. Court reprimanded both the parties. Governor, what are you doing? Are you a child? Chief Minister, this is not comedy. Run the state. The advice of the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers to the governor in summoning the Legislative Assembly is binding on the governor. Call the session. Governor said, sorry, I am calling the session. And that's how that dispute was resolved. We have Legislative Assembly. We have Lok Sabha plus Rajya Sabha. We have something known as Governor's Address. We have something known as President's Address. Not the address. Address means their speech when they're addressing the parliament. First day of the first session of a year. And first day after the general election. Those states where we have bicameral legislature, and those states where we have only legislative assembly. The first day of the first session of a year, which means the first day of the budget session, because budget session is the first session of the year, will be addressed by the governor. That's called governor's address. Similarly, first day of the first session of a year. What is the first session of the year? Budget session. First day of the budget session, President addresses both Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha members together. That's what we call joint address. Not just then, after the election, when new Lok Sabha is convened, the first day when this new Lok Sabha is convened, the President addresses the members of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha together. That is what we call joint address. What is the text of this speech? What does governor say in this speech? What does the president say in this speech? This text is provided by Council of Ministers. So whatever president is saying, whatever governor is saying, these are not his or her words. These are the words given by the Council of Ministers. Whatever text they prepare, that is abided by the president and the governor. And if you have followed that speech, for example, the President Srimati Draupadi Murmu, what does she say in that speech? My government has done this. My government will do this. My government will prioritize this. My government has these achievements. So she's talking about the achievements of her government, policies of our government, objectives of our government, future agenda of the government, because the text of the speech is provided by Council of Ministers. She abides by it, and then the address is over. Once the address is over, there is general discussion on this President's address, followed by vote of thanks. After this address is over, then in Lok Sabha and in Rajya Sabha separately, there is a discussion on this President's address. What a beautiful speech by the President, says a minister, because he has written that speech. The President spoke at length about the problems faced by the young, by the uneducated, by the unemployed people. And I really applaud the speech. What a magnificent speech, stunning performance. Opposition would criticize, obviously. But then there is voting. Vote of thanks on President's address. If in Lok Sabha it gets simple majority, it basically means this President's speech has been approved by the Lok Sabha. We thank President for giving that speech. But if it is defeated in Lok Sabha, if it is not passed by simple majority, it amounts to censure of Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers, drop everything that you're doing. Immediately seek the confidence of the legislative of the Lok Sabha again, because it seems that you have lost the confidence of Lok Sabha. But if this vote of thanks is approved, passed by simple majority in Lok Sabha, it should also be approved by Rajya Sabha. What if it is defeated in Rajya Sabha? Nothing will happen to the government. Why? Because Council of Ministers are not accountable to, are not responsible to Rajya Sabha. But what Rajya Sabha can do, can amend this President's address. For example, a few years ago, Rajya Sabha amended the President's address given by President Pranab Mukherjee, saying we regret that President did not speak about corruption. That can happen. That doesn't affect the stability of the government because the Council of Ministers is not accountable to Rajya Sabha. Same is the case with the governor's address. The text of the speech is provided by the Council of Ministers. But Governor of Tamil Nadu gave a speech, gave the President's address, but he skipped some of the paragraphs mentioned by the Council of Ministers in that speech. The Council of Ministers in that speech referred to some uh, individuals, for example, Periyar, for example, the previous chief, Mr. Karunanidhi, those portions were skipped. Portions related to the Dravidian politics or the Dravidian model of governance were skipped. It's petty for the governor. You have to abide by this principle, by this convention. You have to read the same speech. For example, the Queen of Britain, because this is the convention that we have borrowed from Britain. The Queen, when she gives the address, when the King gives the address, they don't deviate from whatever is mentioned by the Council of Ministers. Just read that and go home. Go Raj Bhavan and sleep. This is childish. But that is what was done by the governor of Tamil Nadu. He skipped some of the portions mentioned in this governor's address by the Council of Ministers. But then it used to happen previously as well. Previously also some governors would do this. But this time Mr. Stalin took a different stand. The governor, the chief minister took a stand. He got up. He asked the Legislative Assembly pass a resolution condemning the governor for skipping those portions. And those portions will be included in the governor's address. That means when vote of thanks will be given, when voting will take place, we will vote on the text prepared by the Council of Ministers, not the speech which was given by the governor, which skipped some of the portions of that speech. Governor Mr. Ravi, he could not understand what Mr. Stalin is speaking in Tamil. But then when somebody told him that this is what it is happening, the governor, even without completing that speech, left the Legislative Assembly. Chief Minister said, so what, you left without completing the entire address? Number one, we will approve the entire address and we will approve even those portions which you have not included in your speech. Wow. But that is what governor's address and presidential address is. Can after completion of 5 years, 6 years, can the Rajya Sabha member be re-elected as Rajya Sabha? Yes. What if the chief minister dies, but the governor is bound to act on the advice of chief minister and council of ministers, and suppose the time is such that some important decisions have to be made, then how would the governor act? Would he act on the basis of his advice tendered by council of ministers? He has to appoint a new chief minister and then act on the advice given by this new chief minister. The governors have also been misusing the discretion of reserving a bill for the consideration of president. When a bill is passed by both houses of the parliament, sent to the president, what are the options available with the president? President can either give her assent or withhold her assent or send the bill back or may not act on that bill, right? Same powers are with the governor as well, same veto powers. That means the governor may give her assent, the governor may withhold her assent, the governor may send the bill back for reconsideration, if it is not a money bill, because a money bill cannot be sent back. Or governor has another option. Governor may reserve a bill for the consideration of president. Can governor reserve any bill for the consideration of the president? Yes, any bill. Can governor reserve even a money bill for the consideration of the president? Yes, Any bill can be reserved. This is the discretion. Any bill, that's the discretion. Bill affecting the powers and jurisdiction of High Court. Mandatory. There is a bill passed by the state legislature, sent to the governor. What are the options available with the governor? Governor has a discretion. He may either give his assent, may withhold his assent, may send the bill back, or may reserve this bill for the consideration of the president. Can the governor reserve any bill? Yes. Including a money bill? Yes. Including budget? Yes. Any bill? Yes. Any bill? Yes. Is it a discretion? Yes. But in one instance, it is mandatory for the governor to reserve this bill for the consideration of the president. If this bill threatens the powers of the High Court, if the Legislative Assembly is creating, for example, a tribunal, saying from now onwards, fundamental rights related cases will be heard by this tribunal and not the High Court, you are basically endangering the role of the High Court. Such a bill, whether it is approved or not, will have to be reserved for the consideration of the president. And the governor will act on the basis of the advice given by the president. And president also will give the advice based on whatever is recommended to him by the prime minister and his council of ministers. Sir, what is the meaning of appointment by president by warrant under his hand and seal? President is appointed by the governor by warrant under his hand and seal. President appoints CAG by warrant under his hand and seal. That means only president can appoint. President cannot give this power to someone else. For example, we say you are appointed by the president. But basically the appointment order can be given by the government. Maybe the chief secretary will give the appointment order. Maybe the cabinet secretary will give the appointment order. That means you are not appointed by the president by warrant under his hand and seal. You're appointed by president but through someone else. But such individuals, governor, CAG, are appointed by the president by warrant under his hand and seal. That means this power cannot be delegated to someone else. Only the president can appoint. Sir, what about ordinance of governor? Gunjan, we have discussed that in president's chapter when we discussed the ordinance making power of president under Article 123 and the ordinance making power of the governor under Article 213. In fact, I gave the example of the governor of Bihar, the Wadhwa case, where 256 times the ordinance was re-promulgated. Is there any difference between Delhi's lieutenant governor and other states' lieutenant governor? Yes, that is something that we will discuss after the break when we will discuss union territories. But since the office of governor and the state machinery is a very important topic, I will take 5 more minutes. If you have any questions in this period, please let me know so that there should be no doubt in your mind. Then at 9:15, we will take a break and we will meet at 9:30. And 9:30, we will won't be removed by the president. There have been instances where governor has refused to even address. Then what happened, sir? The text of the speech, which was prepared by the Council of Ministers, that was tabled in the Legislative Assembly, said this is the governor's address. Legislative Assembly, please approve this. It was approved without any governor's address. For the office of the governor, that, my dear, you have to ask. It's a good question, but you're asking the wrong person. You have to ask the government why. And not just the BJP government, even the successive governments since 1980s. Now let's look at union territories. First, we will look at what are the concepts relevant for prelims and then we will discuss a topic which is relevant for the mains exam when it comes to union territories. Article 1, Clause 3, it says we can either have states or we can have union territories or we can have acquired territories. Right? And Article 1, Clause 1, which says India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. This term or this phrase union of states does not include union territories. Why? Because union territories do not share federal relationship with the center. In a federal relationship, we have something known as dual government. One government at the center, one government in the states. We have distribution of powers. Some powers given to the center, some powers given to the states. These features are not applicable to union territories because they do not share federal relationship with the center. Because these union territories are directly under the control of the central government. When we say these are directly under the control of the central government, it basically means who is going to be the executive head of these union territories? President. Because president is the head of the central government. And since these union territories are directly controlled by the center, the executive head of these union territories is a president. Who is the executive head of a state? Governor. Who will make laws for a state? Legislative assembly. Who will make law for a union territory? Parliament. Why? Because parliament is the central legislature, union legislature. If union territories are directly under the control of the center, which means the executive head is the president, which means who has the power to make laws for a union territory? Parliament. Because union territories are directly under the control of the center, which means if there is no dual government, if there is no distribution of powers, which means these union territories do not share federal relationship with the center, which means this phrase, India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states, does not include union territories. But we do not see a commonality or uniformity in the way the structure of union territories exists in India, which we will discuss. But first, let's discuss how many union territories do we have and why do we have these union territories. We will look at the argument given by Mr. M. Lakshmikant in his book, which is not entirely correct. But I will tell you the real reason slightly later. Why do we have union territories in India? But if we have 8 union territories, Mr. Lakshmikant says for political and administrative reasons, we have Delhi and Chandigarh as union territories. Delhi is a union territory because Delhi is also the capital of India. And just like the capital of a federal country such as United States, Washington, D.C., it is directly under the control of the center. Canberra, which is the capital of Australia, Australia is also a federal polity, but the capital of Australia is under the central government. Because in Delhi, we have the parliament, which is for the union, we have the Supreme Court, we have the embassies and offices of foreign countries, we have central secretariat. Since Delhi caters to central business or central government business, that is why Delhi is a union territory. Why Chandigarh is a union territory? Because Punjab was a full state. The Punjab was to be reorganized. Punjab, Haryana, and then the hilly areas were made into Himachal Pradesh. The question arose on Chandigarh. Who should get the control of Chandigarh, Punjab or Haryana? Chandigarh, a smokeless city, a beautiful city, well organized city, developed by French architect Le Corbusier, because the pattern that you see of houses in Chandigarh is similar to something that we found in the Indus Valley civilization, something known as the grid pattern. You would know that better. I'm not the student of history. There was a dispute on Chandigarh. Punjab said Chandigarh is ours. Haryana said Chandigarh is ours. There was no consensus. Where will Chandigarh go? So it was thought that Chandigarh will remain a union territory for 10 years. So that after 10 years, we have a consensus whether Chandigarh should be part of Punjab or Chandigarh would be part of Haryana. Those 10 years have still not got over. We are in 2023. Chandigarh is still a union territory because there is no consensus whether Chandigarh should be part of Punjab or Haryana. For cultural distinctiveness, we have Puducherry and Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu. Dadra and Nagar Haveli used to be a separate UT. Daman and Diu used to be a separate UT. But with effect from 26 January 2020, both these union territories were merged. So now we have one union territory, Daman and Diu and Dadra and Nagar Haveli. And Puducherry, because of their distinctiveness in terms of culture, Puducherry has the influence of Goa, has the influence of Portuguese, has the influence of French in Puducherry, influence of Portuguese and Dutch on Daman and Diu and Dadra and Nagar Haveli. Because of their cultural distinctiveness, we have made them into a union territory. According to Mr. Lakshmikant, I don't agree. And what is the real reason? I'll tell you slightly later. For their strategic importance, because the location of these union territories, very important for our strategic influence. Andaman and Nicobar Islands in the Bay of Bengal, Lakshadweep in the Arabian Sea. Because of their strategic location, they have been converted into union territories. Jammu and Kashmir is a union territory because the government said there is terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, there is Pakistani infiltration into Jammu and Kashmir, there is no peace and security in Jammu and Kashmir right now. That is why till the time the situation becomes better, Jammu and Kashmir will remain a union territory. Once the situation stabilizes, Jammu and Kashmir will become a state again. But why Ladakh is a union territory? Because of people's aspirations. The government said in 2019 that it was the long pending demand of the people of Ladakh that they should come out of Jammu and Kashmir. They should be given a UT status. In fact, there used to be a political party, LUTF, Ladakh Union Territory Front, whose principal demand was to convert Ladakh into a union territory. So since there were aspirations of the people to make Ladakh into a union territory, we bow down before the aspirations of the people of Ladakh, and Ladakh is now a union territory. So total, we have 8 union territories. But in all these 8 union territories, there is no uniformity in the administrative system. No uniformity in the sense, when we look at the administrative structure, we have 5 UTs, which are directly controlled by the center. Laws are made by parliament. And the executive head is the president. And this president administers these 5 union territories through his officers who are suitably named. That means suitable designation is given to these officers. Officers can be administrators. Officers can be lieutenant governors. Officers can be chief commissioners. Which are these 5 union territories? We have Lakshadweep, we have Daman and Diu and Dadra and Nagar Haveli, we have Ladakh, we have Andaman and Nicobar Islands, we have Chandigarh. These are the 5 union territories which are directly controlled by the center, which means the laws are passed by the parliament, which means president is the executive head of all these union territories. But president will administer these union territories through his officers who are suitably named. That's the prerogative of the president. You may call them administrators or chief commissioners or lieutenant governors. That is the discretion of the president on the advice of the Council of Ministers. But when it comes to three UTs, these three UTs have a legislative assembly. These three UTs have chief minister and Council of Ministers as well. Right now, although there are only two UTs, Delhi and Puducherry, which have a legislative assembly, which have a chief minister and Council of Ministers, but Jammu and Kashmir will have a legislative assembly. Jammu and Kashmir will have a chief minister and Council of Ministers. That means there is no uniformity. Article 239A talks about Puducherry. Article 239AA talks about National Capital Territory of Delhi. And the provisions of Article 239A are applicable to Jammu and Kashmir as well. That means there is some sort of democracy in these union territories. People directly elect their MLAs to Legislative Assembly. These MLAs choose the Chief Minister and Council of Ministers as well. So we have a Chief Minister in Delhi, we have a Chief Minister in Puducherry, we have a Legislative Assembly in Delhi, we have a Legislative Assembly in Puducherry. What is the role of Legislative Assembly then? Legislative Assembly of Puducherry can make laws on any item mentioned in the state list, any item mentioned in the concurrent list. Even then, Parliament has the power to legislate. Even on the items mentioned in the state list and concurrent list. That means although Puducherry has a legislative assembly, and the power of the Puducherry Legislative Assembly is to make laws on any item mentioned in the state list, any item mentioned in the concurrent list. But since Puducherry is a union territory after all, it's not a state. That means Parliament still has the power to make a law on any item mentioned in the state list, any item mentioned in the concurrent list. Because Puducherry is a union territory. When it comes to Legislative Assembly of Delhi, it can also make a law on any item mentioned in the state list, any item mentioned in the concurrent list, except law and order, land and police. These are the three items, subjects, which are exclusively under Parliament. That means Parliament can make a law on any item mentioned in the state list, any item mentioned in the concurrent list, even for Delhi. But Delhi Legislative Assembly can make a law on any item mentioned in the state list except law and order, land and police. Why? Because law and order and police should be given to the central government, because central government, Delhi is the capital of India. Land, what if tomorrow we set up consular relations or diplomatic relations with a country? And for that country should be provided land in India to set up its embassy. Kejriwal says, I won't give you land because I want to embarrass Mr. Modi. That is why land cannot be given to the state assembly. Land as a subject is given to the parliament because Delhi, after all, is a capital. The strength of Chief Minister and Council of Ministers shall not be more than 1/10 of the strength of the Legislative Assembly. For example, in Delhi, we have Chief Minister. Including the Chief Minister, we can have only 7 ministers. Because what is the total strength of the Legislative Assembly of Delhi? It's 70. For all the states and at the central level, the Council of Ministers, including the Prime Minister, the Council of Ministers, including the Chief Minister, shall not exceed 15% of the strength of the Lok Sabha or Legislative Assembly. But in case of Delhi, it is 1/10 of the strength of the Legislative Assembly, which is 7. 7 is 1/10 of 70. That means there is no uniformity in the administrative structure when it comes to these union territories. For 5 union territories, they are directly controlled by the center, laws passed by the center, governance is done by the center. But there are 3 union territories which have some form of democracy. That means they will have their MLAs, they will have their ministers and chief ministers as well. But even then, the ultimate control is with the center. Why? Because these are union territories. And Delhi specifically cannot make a law on these 3 items mentioned in the state list: law and order, land, and police. And when it comes to the judicial structure, because legislative structure we discussed, judicial structure, only Delhi and Jammu and Kashmir, these are the only 2 UTs to have their own high court. Harshita is saying you wrote 293 AA. Where did I write 293? Sorry. Thank you for correcting. Delhi and Jammu and Kashmir, these are the only 2 union territories which have their own high court. Other UTs, they come under the jurisdiction of the neighboring high courts. What does that mean? In all these union territories, we have subordinate judiciary. That means we have the district courts. But every state or a union territory should have a high court. But it is not that we should have one high court for one state. We can have a common high court for more than one state. And it is not necessary that we should have high court for every union territory, high court in every union territory. But every union territory should come under the jurisdiction of a high court. Because if there are cases filed in the district court, you have to file an appeal. You can't directly go to the Supreme Court. You have to go through a high court route. Only Delhi and J&K, these are the 2 UTs which have their own high courts. All other UTs, they come under the jurisdiction of the neighboring high courts. Neighboring high court, which means Ladakh, will come under the jurisdiction of the Jammu and Kashmir High Court. Lakshadweep will come under the jurisdiction of the Kerala High Court. Puducherry will come under the jurisdiction of the Madras High Court. Andaman and Nicobar will come under the jurisdiction of the West Bengal High Court or the Calcutta High Court. Similarly, Daman and Diu, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, they will come under the jurisdiction of the Gujarat High Court. Similarly, we have Chandigarh, which comes under the jurisdiction of the Punjab and the Haryana High Court. That means all these union territories will come under the jurisdiction of the neighboring high courts. Now comes the fundamental question. These union territories, which is relevant for the mains examination, can we say that these are the outcasts of democracy in India? Outcasts in the sense these are not required. And it is high time that we either abolish them or merge them with the neighboring states. Why? Let's look at the reason. A fundamental question is, why do union territories, and there are some students who ask this question, why do these union territories, which are directly administered by the central government since 1950s, with highly curtailed democratic rights for their people? Because if constitution starts with we the people, that means all the people of this country are equal. But why should a citizen, why should a resident, why should a voter of Karnataka have the power to choose her representative, her MLA, and thereby hold that MLA accountable, while the citizen of India who should have the similar right. But in Lakshadweep, you can't do that. You can't have your own MLA. In Ladakh, you can't do that. In Delhi, you can still do that, but Chief Minister does not have the power. The ministers do not have the powers. That is why there is a conflict in Delhi as well. Why should these union territories, which are directly administered by the central since 1950s, and they have highly curtailed democratic rights, why should these UTs persist in modern Indian state at all? What rationale does the state have, the center have, in discriminating and treating some of its people as lesser citizens by denying them a representative government at all levels? They can still elect their MPs and hold them accountable, but they can't elect their MLAs and hold them accountable. Isn't the concept of union territories past its expiry date? And for that, we need to understand why union territories were created in the first place. The year was 1953. Three-member committee headed by Fazal Ali, H.N. Kunzru, K.M. Panikar, which was known as the States Reorganization Commission, was set up. And States Reorganization Commission submitted its report in 1955. And in that report, the States Reorganization Committee recommended that we should have 3 union territories. All other areas should be converted into states, because states share federal relationship with the center. But in 3 areas, the States Reorganization Commission said, no, we should make them union territories. Which are these areas? Delhi, Manipur, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Why Delhi? For administrative reason. Because Delhi is a union, Delhi is a capital. Prior to this report, Delhi was a state. It had its democratically elected chief minister and MLAs as well. But then the States Reorganization Commission said, no, it is not required. Why? Because Delhi is a capital. And this capital should be under the direct control of the central government. Just like we have Canberra in Australia, we have Washington District of Columbia in United States. Despite the fact that these are federal constitutions, federal polities. In the similar fashion, in India, the capital should be directly under the control of the center. So Delhi for administrative reasons. Why Manipur? Manipur for security reasons. Because in Manipur, there was an armed insurgency. There was armed insurgency, militants in Manipur. There were some people who wanted to come out of Union of India. So for security reasons, we should not make Manipur a state. It should be a union territory, directly under the control of the center, so that center can control the law and order in Manipur. And Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Why? Because for other compelling reasons. What are these other compelling reasons? We don't know. What are these other compelling reasons? The phrase has not been defined properly. But once this report was partially accepted, the parliament, instead of creating 3 union territories, created 6 union territories. Six union territories instead were created. And what was the logic given by the parliament? What was the logic given by the government? States Reorganization Commission provided for the representation of UTs in the parliament. That means from all these UTs, they should elect MPs to Lok Sabha. But it admitted to the inferiority of the democratic rights of their people by noting that democracy in these areas should take the form of the people being associated with the administration in advisory rather than directive capacity. Sir, what does that mean? These UTs will have their representatives in Lok Sabha. That means they will elect their representatives and send them to Lok Sabha. But so far as the state level is concerned, in day-to-day activities are concerned, we should not have them in directive capacity but in advisory capacity. Directive capacity, that means they should not have democracy at the state level. We may have people who will advise the central government how to run this union territory, but we will not have people of these union territories directly administering their states. directly administering their territories. Why? There were two broad reasons given. Reason number one, low resource base. Reason number two, small population. This is the real reason why we have union territories. The government said, look at these union territories that we are creating, the 6 union territories we are creating: Delhi, Manipur, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep, Himachal Pradesh. All these union territories, they have low resource base. That means they cannot generate their own revenue. They cannot raise their own money, which means they cannot self sustain, which means they will always be with the begging bowl before the center. If they cannot self sustain, why should we give them the statehood? Because in any case, they are dependent upon the center for funds, for grants, for money, for resources. If we give democracy to these states, to these territories, democracy would be expensive. We have to establish legislative assembly with the money given by the center. We have to have a speaker, chief minister, ministers with the money given by the center. We need to have a secretariat with the money given by the center. We may need to have a high court with the money given by the center. We may need to have various important institutions to be created with the money from the center. But since these areas cannot raise their own money, cannot generate their own money, and then we have to organize elections for the legislative assembly as well, time, money, resources would be wasted. Democracy in these areas would become expensive. So no direct democracy, advisory. That means some people will advise the central government how to run this union territory. Plus the population is small. Small population, why should we give them democracy? How can we even organize the constituencies? Because the population is so small. This may have worked in 1950s. This logic may have worked in 1956, but it is no longer relevant today. If low resource base is the reason, then with due respect, all the 7 sisters in Northeast plus Sikkim should have been union territories, because they are also dependent almost entirely on the center, barring the exception of Assam. All the other areas in Northeast, they are supported, they are dependent upon the center. They should also have been converted into union territories. Not just that, small population. Do you know what was the population when Sikkim was given statehood? Because Sikkim initially was an associate state. We have discussed that in Article 2. Then in 1975, it became a full-fledged state. And when it became a full-fledged state, not a UT, full-fledged state, its population was 2.5 lakhs. When Mizoram, when Arunachal Pradesh were given statehood, their population was 6 lakhs and 8 lakhs. Delhi is a union territory with the population which is more than the population of 140 countries of the world. Yet it is a union territory. Puducherry also has more population than 2.5, 6 lakh, 8 lakh. In fact, it has a combined population of more than this. Why is it a union territory? So this logic may have worked in the 1950s, where because of low resource base, small population, you were saying that these are union territories. But this logic no longer works today. In fact, this logic did not work in 1970s, when you made Sikkim a state with mere 2.5 lakh population. You converted Mizoram and Arunachal Pradesh from UTs to states when their population was 6 and 8 lakhs. In fact, majority of the northeastern states, these used to be union territories. Now they are converted into states. So why should others remain union territories? Something happened in Goa. What happened in Goa? In 1967, there was a referendum in Goa. Although we don't call it referendum, we call it Goa opinion poll. Goa, which was a union territory. Now, people of Goa were given options. Either you merge with the neighboring state, which is Bombay, or you remain a different state, a separate state. Overwhelming majority of the people in Goa voted for a separate state. That is how Goa became a state. Manipur was a union territory. There was armed insurgency in Manipur, which forced the central government to convert Manipur from a union territory to a statehood. Since 1977, no legislative assembly of Puducherry is dissolved without this legislative assembly passing a resolution that we need full statehood. Never ever has it happened in the history of the Legislative Assembly of Puducherry since 1977, when before its dissolution, which happens once 5-year term is over, before its dissolution, it does not recommend that we need a full-fledged statehood. Not happening. Should we not have an opinion poll? Or should we wait for this armed insurgency to start and then we can buckle down, succumb to the pressure and convert that UT into a state? What are the options? Options are, number one, either we should follow the Goans model of opinion poll or referendum, and we should ask the people, what are your options? 3 options should be given. Merger with an adjoining state which is linguistically and economically most connected to the union territory. Let the people of Puducherry be told, if you can't become a full-fledged state because the way in which you are geographically aligned, look at where are the districts of Puducherry. Some are closer to Andhra, some are closer to Tamil Nadu. That is why you are a union territory, and that is how the French had acquired these territories, and that is how we have converted them into union territory. Give them options. Merge with the neighboring state. Let's say Ladakh can be merged with the neighboring state, which is Jammu and Kashmir. Again, maybe. Puducherry may be merged with Tamil Nadu. Lakshadweep may be merged with Kerala because they have cultural ties with Kerala. Give people the option that if you can't become a full-fledged state, our option is merge with the neighboring state, which is linguistically and economically connected with us. Or full statehood, but only if the population is beyond a certain threshold. For example, even then, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, we can't give it a statehood because, yes, it would be expensive because the population is very small. Or continue as UT for a specified period before you can be merged with a neighboring state. Because this concept of union territory is past its expiry date. Why? This should be the conclusion. The preamble to the Constitution of India promises political justice and equality of status and opportunity to every citizen. The right to a democratically elected government at all levels, center, state, and local levels, is the foremost expression of this promise. Until this right is granted to all the people of the present UTs, who are no lesser citizens of India, we have a project. We are the world's largest democracy. But our project is, our dream is, we want to become the world's greatest democracy. Unless and until we give right to every single citizen of a union territory, that you have a right to democratically elect your people at all levels of government, this project of converting India from a largest democracy to a greatest democracy will remain unfinished. But curious is the example of Delhi. Article 239 AA talks about National Capital Territory of Delhi It has a chief minister plus 6 ministers as well, who are part of Council of Ministers. It has a legislative assembly as well. It has a lieutenant governor appointed by the center. And this Delhi Legislative Assembly cannot make a law on law and order, land, and police. These are exceptions. Now, Constitution says there shall be Chief Minister and Council of Ministers in the National Capital Territory of Delhi, who will aid and advise the Lieutenant Governor. And the Lieutenant Governor will have to act on this advice, except when the Lieutenant Governor has to act in his discretion, just like we have the Governor. And this problem did not arose when Delhi was a union territory with a legislative assembly. Once Sushma Swaraj was the chief minister of Delhi, Sahib Singh Verma was the chief minister of Delhi. But at that time, the central government was headed by the BJP. No conflict. Then came Sheila Dikshit, who remained the chief minister for 15 long years. And for 10 of those years, the central government was headed by was of the Congress. No conflict whatsoever, because the same party in union territory, same party at the center, no conflict whatsoever. Then came Aam Aadmi Party, led by maverick yet charismatic Arvind Kejriwal. 2015 elections were held. In fact, first elections were held in 2013. 70-member legislative assembly. BJP emerged as the single largest party with close to 32 seats. Aam Aadmi Party bagged 28 seats. Congress bagged 8 or 6 seats. And now Aam Aadmi Party and Congress went into an alliance, and Mr. Kejriwal became the chief minister. But he remained chief minister only for 49 days. And that is why he is known as sometimes AK-49. Arvind Kejriwal 49, chief minister for 49 days. Why? Because he introduced a Lokpal bill in the legislative assembly, which was not approved by the lieutenant governor. Or he tried to introduce it, but it was not acceptable. He resigned. And then there are critics who say he resigned because he saw an opportunity to contest Lok Sabha election. Then he went to Varanasi to contest elections against Mr. Modi and then lost. And then he apologized to the people. He said, I'm sorry, now I will dedicate myself to Delhi. And come 2015, when elections were held, 67 seats were bagged by Aam Aadmi Party, 3 were bagged by BJP. Congress was nowhere. But soon, when Aam Aadmi Party government got down to business, took some decisions, enacted certain bills or passed certain bills in legislative assembly. Lieutenant Governor is Najib Jung, appointed by the president. He is not giving any assent to these bills. Nothing. He says, I am the real government of NCT Delhi. Who appoints the chief minister and ministers of Delhi? President. So if there is a question in your prelims examination, the Chief Minister of Delhi and the Council of Ministers of Delhi are appointed by Lieutenant Governor, Speaker, President, Chief Justice. The answer is the President of India, appointed by the President through Lieutenant Governor, but appointed by the President. The Chief Minister and Council of Ministers of the state are appointed by Governor. But since Delhi is a union territory, Puducherry is a union territory, Jammu and Kashmir is a union territory, chief ministers are appointed by the president. Because who is the head of these union territories? President. Through lieutenant governor. And in 2015, when all these bills were passed, close to 14 bills were passed by the Delhi Legislative Assembly. None of these bills were assented by the Lieutenant Governor, who said, I am the real power. Delhi realized that we are in a peculiar situation where the value of the millions of votes have now been lost. Because the people of Delhi realized that we voted for Mr. Kejriwal. But the real power is not with the elected chief minister. The real power is with the appointed lieutenant governor. The unelected lieutenant governor. Matter went to the court. Which court? Delhi High Court. My lord, Legislative Assembly of Delhi cannot pass a law on law and order, land and police. That we know. But on all other aspects, on all other items mentioned in the state list, can we not pass a law? We have passed a law. Lieutenant Governor is not signing. Lieutenant Governor is saying, I have the full power. I have the full authority. Your advice is not binding on me. Please tell us, because if there is a dispute, we have to go to the court. Please tell us what is the position. Delhi High Court said, real power is with Lieutenant Governor, advice of Chief Minister and Council of Ministers, not binding on the Lieutenant Governor. My lord, why? Because Delhi is, my dear, a union territory. Union territory is directly controlled by the center. Setback for Mr. Kejriwal, he then approaches Supreme Court. Supreme Court in August 2018, a constitution bench. That means a Supreme Court bench of 5 judges had to decide who is the real power holder in Delhi. Supreme Court said, we are in a democracy where people's vote is paramount. Number one, when it comes to law and order, police and land, it will be under center. That's understood. Legislative Assembly cannot pass such a law. On all other items, Delhi Legislative Assembly can make laws. Advice of Chief Minister and Council of Ministers is binding on Lieutenant Governor, except in these cases. Except you cannot advise on law and order, land and police. On all other matters, it is the advice of Chief Minister and Council of Ministers which is binding on the Lieutenant Governor, because we are a parliamentary democracy, which is part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Reservation of bills cannot be a mechanical exercise. What is this mechanical exercise? You have to apply mind. Basically, Supreme Court is telling Lieutenant Governor, you don't have mind. Why are you mechanically, randomly, Legislative Assembly is passing a bill, you are not signing it, you are reserving it for the consideration of the President. Another bill passed, you send it for President. Bill passed, send it to the President. Bill passed, send it to the President. Who are you, a mechanical device where something comes and you gives it to others? Apply your mind. What are those bills for which you need to reserve it for the consideration of President? Otherwise, you have to sign it. It is binding on you. You can't block democracy. Parliamentary democracy is part of the basic structure. Kejriwal displayed the victory sign and said, this is the victory of people's democracy. Now we are the real government. Lieutenant Governor is bound on my advice, bound by my aid and advice. Very good. The question arose on services. Services. Mr. Kejriwal now realized that, okay, my advice is binding on Lieutenant Governor, but who are these officers? IAS officers, IPS officers, those officers who are from the DANIX, Delhi and Andaman and Nicobar and others, these union territories, They don't listen to me. They listen to the Lieutenant Governor. I ask them, come here. They go to the Lieutenant Governor. Hey, where are you going? Listen to me. No, I will not listen to you. Do we have control over services or not? Can we transfer a chief secretary? Chief secretary appointed by the central government. Secretary of Home appointed by the central government. We tell them, please listen to me. Let's organize a meeting. They said, no, we will not come. Do we have control over services or not? Matter went to the Supreme Court again. Another constitution bench, 5 judges. And recently they gave a verdict. Services is under Chief Minister and Council of Ministers. Except those officers who are charged with maintenance of law and order, except those ones, all other services are under the state government, state chief minister and council of ministers. You can transfer them, you can appoint someone else. That is the power that is available to you. Government said, what do we do? First passed an ordinance. Then once the parliament was convened, converted that ordinance into a bill, the bill was passed. And what is mentioned in this bill? Government of National Capital Territory Amendment Bill. (2023). Passed after this 5-judge bench decision of the Supreme Court. This law said, summoning of Legislative Assembly is the sole discretion of Lieutenant Governor. Okay. To manage the services, we will set up National Capital Services Authority. Look at the beauty. We abide by the Supreme Court judgment. Yes, it should be under the state government. One member of this would be Chief Minister of Delhi. Another member would be the Chief Secretary of Delhi. Another member would be the Home Secretary of Delhi. But these two will be appointed by central government. Quorum is 2. Decisions taken by majority. That means if we have to appoint officers to various departments, Chief Minister, you have a very important role. Please come and be part of this National Capital Services Authority. Very good. Now I will take a decision. Yes, you have got 2 more members. Chief Secretary of Delhi, say hi, hi. Home Secretary of Delhi, say hi, hi. Both of them will be appointed by this central government. Okay. That means in this meeting, I will be pushed aside. These 2 will take the decision. Yes, because the decisions will be taken by majority. And what is the quorum? What is the minimum number of members present? 2. That means they will decide, let's have a meeting. Chief Minister should go wherever he is. Let's have a meeting and we will decide who are the officers to be appointed. Which negates the very decision of the Supreme Court, which says Chief Minister and Council of Ministers have the say on services. They have the control over services. Now the control is with the central government. We have read about discretion. Have we not? There shall be Council of Ministers headed by the Chief Minister to aid and advise the governor, who shall act on that advice except when the governor has to act in his discretion. That we have read, discretion, right? Similarly, there is a discretionary power for Lieutenant Governor as well. The advice is binding on the Lieutenant Governor except when the governor has to act in his discretion. What are those discretion? That means in matters related to law and order, land, police, The governor, lieutenant governor is not bound by the advice of the chief minister. But now another term is added by this bill, by this law. It talks about something called sole discretion. What is the sole discretion? How is the sole discretion different from discretion? We don't know. That means in summoning legislative assembly, the lieutenant governor has a sole discretion. Then what is the job of the chief minister and council of ministers? Nothing. And there are some who say it is good. Why is it good? Because Delhi, after all, is the capital of India. We can't have this bickering, we can't have this conflict between the chief minister and the central government. We can't. Then what is the logic? What is the solution? Delhi Legislative Assembly should be dissolved. There is no need for chief minister and council of ministers. Simple. If Delhi is the capital, which it is, there should be no conflict whatsoever. What is the need of the Delhi Legislative Assembly when Parliament can make a law? What is the need of the Chief Minister and Council of Ministers when the real power is with the Lieutenant Governor? Abolish the Legislative Assembly. Don't have Legislative Assembly and the Chief Minister and Council of Ministers. Let Delhi be directly under the control of the centre. But sir, this is something which is not acceptable, which will not be acceptable to Mr. Kejriwal. No, Mr. Kejriwal should support this. Why? Because in 2019, when the central government decides to revoke Article 370 and convert J&K into two union territories, the Chief Minister of the Delhi Union Territory said, we support the decisions of the government on J&K. Now also support. Abolish Legislative Assembly. Do away with the Chief Minister because in reality you don't have the power. Why create unnecessary conflict when you don't have the real power, when Delhi is and has to be a union territory? This is solution number one. Or there can be another solution. Divide Delhi. Whether you will call it Old Delhi and New Delhi or whatever it is, there are civilian areas in Delhi and there are diplomatic areas in Delhi. There are areas in Delhi where in Chanakyapuri, for example, you have the embassies and the consulates of the foreign governments. You have the parliament. You have the Supreme Court. You have the central secretariat. You have the new parliament complex. You have the new offices. All those areas should be directly under the control of the center. That should be the capital of India. So that it caters only to the government business. That's it. The remaining areas where there is a civilian population, those areas should be converted into a state. So divide Delhi into a union territory and a state, so that those areas which are dominated by the civilian population, they should have the right to a democratically elected government. That can be the solution. Because you can't write in your answer that there is no solution as long as Kejriwal is alive or as long as Delhi is a union territory. That completes our discussion on union territories. Any questions? Let me know. Questions? How Parliament reversed the Supreme Court verdict by introducing ordinance in Delhi. Because what did the Supreme Court say in its judgment? Parliamentary democracy is part of the basic structure. Supreme Court said there shall be the power of the democratically elected chief minister should have a control over services. Same has been applied in the law. Yes, the law gives power to the Chief Minister of Delhi that you be part of the National Capital Civil Services Authority and you decide upon the postings and the transfers. You have that power. It's just that you don't have the sole power because Delhi is a union territory. It will be explained to the Supreme Court, and let's see. Even this matter is challenged before the court. We'll have to wait and watch what the court will have to see on this matter. But if the same reason which is given by the Supreme Court in its judgment, same reason is introduced in the bill passed by the Parliament, the courts will have to agree to that. For example, in today's newspaper, you will read, if at all you will read it, which is doubtful, that Parliamentary Standing Committee on Home Affairs is now talking about, may give in its report, that we should now recriminalize adultery. Adultery, which was decriminalized by the Supreme Court in Joseph Shine judgment, saying adultery is no longer a crime. It can be ground for divorce, but it is not a crime. It should be reinstated as a law. Similarly, Section 377, which which used to criminalize homosexuality, now has been decriminalized. There is this parliamentary panel which wants this to continue. Now, how can you pass that into a law, negating the Supreme Court judgment, if the basis of that judgment is changed by the parliamentary law? If the parliament said chief minister has the sole authority, chief minister and the council of ministers have the control over services, if the same logic is given in the bill as well, that means we are not contradicting the Supreme Court verdict. We are just enhancing on it by including the chief secretary and the home secretary as well. If this logic is accepted by the courts will agree. Sir, Andaman and Nicobar and Lakshadweep is far away from India's subcontinent. Why is it part of India? It should be part of Sri Lanka. Don't say this. You are going against the sovereignty and integrity of India. So we are talking about merging union territories with neighboring states, not with neighboring countries. And Lakshadweep is closer to India, not closer to Sri Lanka. Okay, done? No, sir, I am asking why Sri Lanka is not part of India. Because Sri Lanka is a different country. Either you have to acquire Sri Lanka logically, legally, or you have to wage a war on Sri Lanka and acquire it. And why would Sri Lanka want to be part of India? They have independence. Okay. Now let's look at Jammu and Kashmir. What is this Article 370 and what was Article 35 capital A? Clear? For that, we need to understand some background. Although this topic is no longer relevant now, unless and until Supreme Court gives a verdict which is surprising or shocking. Otherwise, this topic is no longer relevant. But since the judgment is expected anytime soon, you should know what are the issues involved, what exactly happened, how did it happen, and what is the current and what was the previous status of Jammu and Kashmir. During the colonial period, there were 562 princely states which were governed by the princes, governed by the rulers. These areas were not part of the British India. Now, Indian Independence Act was passed in 1947. The country got split, divided into India and Pakistan. All those areas which were under the British India, those territories were to be divided between India and Pakistan. But what about these princely states, which were governed not directly by the British, but governed by their princes? They were given options. Either you join India, or you join Pakistan, or you stay independent as well. But majority of these princely states, thanks to the untiring efforts of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, decided to join India. But we face problems in three princely states. One was Junagadh, which is in today's Gujarat. Junagadh was a peculiar case. In Junagadh, majority of the people were Hindus, but the ruler was a Muslim. And this decision, whether to join India or Pakistan or to stay independent, this decision cannot be taken by the people. This decision can be taken by the ruler. And this time, the ruler, who was a Muslim, decides to join Pakistan. India objected. India objected and said, since Mr. Jinnah, you talk about two nation theory, where Hindus and Muslims are two different communities, two different ideologies, two different countries. How can you have a Hindu majority Junagadh as part of Muslim majority Pakistan? And ultimately in Junagadh, there was a referendum. Referendum in the sense, now the people of Junagadh were asked, where do you want to go? Do you want to stay in India or do you want to join Pakistan? An overwhelming majority of people voted in favor of India, and Junagadh became part of India. Problem number 2 was in Hyderabad, which was ruled by the Nizam. And Nizam decided neither to join India nor Pakistan. Nizam voted independence. But this Hyderabad princely state was very rich as well, was very powerful as well. And we realized that if in the heart of India, Hyderabad becomes like an independent country, it will be like cancer for the state of India. Because by this logic, South India will disappear from the Union of India. Because look at the location of Hyderabad. Hyderabad included parts of which are currently in Tamil Nadu, which are currently in Karnataka. Hyderabad was a big princely state. And if this big princely state, Nizam has his way, becomes an independent country, we will lose access to South India. And it will be like the cancer right at the heart of India. Army was sent to Hyderabad by the then Deputy Prime Minister, who was also the Home Minister, Sardar Patel. So through military action, Nizam ultimately surrendered and Hyderabad became part of India. Now the third issue was in Jammu and Kashmir, which was similar yet different from the situation in Junagadh. In Jammu and Kashmir, the majority people were Muslims, but the ruler was a Hindu, Maharaja Hari Singh. Maharaja Hari Singh decides, I will neither join India nor will I join Pakistan. I will stay independent. So on 15th of August 1947, we had India as an independent country, Pakistan as an independent country, Jammu and Kashmir as an independent country as well, headed by the Maharaja, a monarch, Maharaja Hari Singh. But this was not acceptable to Pakistan. And what Pakistan did? Pakistan invaded Jammu and Kashmir. Although Pakistan claims we did not invade, it is the people of Pakistan, the tribals of Pakistan, who decided to invade Jammu and Kashmir and liberate their Muslim brothers. But it is no secret that the Pakistani army was involved. Pakistani state was involved. Now Maharaja Hari Singh is trying to seek help from India. Please save me. Please save my territory. And the Governor General at that time was Lord Mountbatten. Maharaja Hari Singh and Lord Mountbatten, now they are in talks with each other. Lord Mountbatten is saying, we can help you only if you join India. And you can join India by signing a document known as Instrument of Accession. What is this Instrument of Accession? Lord Mountbatten says, all these princely states who decided to join India, they signed this document known as Instrument of Accession. Once you sign that document, that means you're acceding to the Union of India. If you accede to Union of India, if you join Union of India, then we will come to your rescue, we will help you. Otherwise, we can't. Pandit Nehru desperately wanted Jammu and Kashmir to be part of India for two reasons. One, he was romantically involved with Jammu and Kashmir because his ancestors were from Jammu and Kashmir. He was a Kashmiri Pandit. That was reason number one. And reason number two, it would have been a big slap on Jinnah. The Jinnah's concept of two nation theory, where Hindus and Muslims are two different communities with different ideologies, different aspirations. They cannot be together in a nation. Because it would have been a slap on Jinnah's two nation theory if a Muslim majority state decides, instead of joining an Islamic Pakistan, decides to join a secular India. For these two reasons, Pandit Nehru wanted Jammu and Kashmir to be part of India. And for that, he had a friend. And that friend was Sheikh Abdullah. Sheikh Abdullah was considered to be the tallest leader of Jammu and Kashmir at that time. He had a complete grip on the people's aspirations, their thoughts. And he was against two nation theory, he was against Jinnah as well. It is argued, it's written in the books, that when Jinnah came to Srinagar, he was garlanded with shoes by the members of Sheikh Abdullah, by the supporters of Sheikh Abdullah. So he was against Jinnah, he was against two nation theory, he was against Pakistan, he was close to Pandit Nehru, they were friends, and together they wanted Jammu and Kashmir to be part of India. And it was Pandit Nehru who persuaded Maharaja Hari Singh that you give up your power. Give up your power and give this power to Sheikh Abdullah. Sheikh Abdullah became the Prime Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. Prime Minister. Because it was still an independent country. But now with Pakistan invading Jammu and Kashmir, Maharaja, who is still the Sadr Riyasat, as he was called, who is still the monarch, although the Prime Minister is now, Prime Minister later on became Sheikh Abdullah. But in 1947, when Maharaja is negotiating with Lord Mountbatten, with the government of India, he's not agreeing, he's not accepting. And then he leaves Srinagar, goes to Jammu, and then it was thought that Jammu and Kashmir will be acquired illegally by Pakistan because the Pakistani army, the troops, they have reached very close to the capital, Srinagar. And this is when, on 26th of October, 1947, instrument of accession is signed. Jammu and Kashmir accedes to India. But in this instrument of accession, Maharaja gave up three powers: defense, external affairs, communication. There was signing of instrument of accession. There was no merger agreement signed. Sir, what is the difference? When all the princely states, whoever joined India, whether it was Patiala, whether it was Rajkot, whether it was Baroda, any princely state which joined India, they first signed instrument of accession. That means we are acceding to the Union of India. That means you want to join Union of India. But then they also signed merger agreement. That means after that they merged with India. That means they gave up their sovereignty. That means they were sovereign previously. Independent princely states were sovereign. First they acceded to India by signing this instrument of accession. And then they merged with India by giving up their sovereignty. That means now we will have no power of our own. We will be under the control of the central government. For Jammu and Kashmir, only the instrument of accession was signed, not the merger agreement. Why? Because the conditions were different, which we will discuss. And in this instrument of accession, Maharaja Hari Singh said, I will give three powers to the central government. You make a law, or you take care of my defenses. You take care of external affairs. What should be the foreign policy vis-a-vis Jammu and Kashmir? and you take care of the communication, which is roads, highways, posts, telegraph. That should be in your domain. All other areas will be under me. All other subjects will be under me. That was the instrument of accession. When it was signed, the very next day, Indian army landed in Jammu and Kashmir, and the first war, the first of many such wars between India and Pakistan on Jammu and Kashmir started. But Pandit Nehru was an idealistic individual as well. Government of India approached United Nations. Why? Because UN, which was created in 1945, its principal objective was to ensure international peace, international order, to prevent the outbreak of a third world war, because the world has already witnessed the two world wars. Pandit Nehru, the government of India, approached United Nations, please name Pakistan as an aggressor, because Pakistan has aggressively invaded our territory, which is legally ours, because we have signed instrument of accession. And this decision of approaching United Nations proved to be costlier, because United Nations then, as it is today, was under the control of United States. United States and Pakistan were close. What made United States and Pakistan closer to each other, despite the fact that the two countries gained independence at the same time? Why not India? Why Pakistan? Because Indian foreign policy was non-aligned. When after the Second World War, the world became bipolar. In United States and USSR, two superpowers emerged. India decided neither to align with US nor USSR. We will maintain and chart out our own independent foreign policy. We will not be aligned with either US or USSR. Pakistan sensed it. And Pakistan said, US, we are with you. Give us the dollars. So since Pakistan was closer to United States controlled United Nations said, let there be ceasefire. Just what we are calling right now in Palestine-Hamas conflict. Let there be ceasefire. Hold the fire. Stop the fire. And when it happened, that is why the line which is separating Pakistan from India in Jammu and Kashmir is known as LOC. Not border, line of control. What is this line of control? That means when Pakistan invaded Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan captured illegally a major chunk of Jammu and Kashmir. And now it is coming to capture various other parts of Jammu and Kashmir and control the entire Jammu and Kashmir. And now there's a war between India and Pakistan. United Nations said, hold the fire, ceasefire. So the Indian troops are till this line, Pakistani troops till this line separates India and Pakistan. This is known as line of control, LOC. And United Nations said there should be demilitarization. First, Pakistan, you withdraw from Jammu and Kashmir. Then India will withdraw from Jammu and Kashmir. Then there will be United Nations peacekeeping force who will maintain order in Jammu and Kashmir. And then there will be plebiscite. What is this plebiscite? We will ask the people of Jammu and Kashmir, what do you want? But Pakistan told United States, come here. Said, what? Don't give them the option of independence. Tell only India or Pakistan. Why not independence? Because then they will claim independence. We don't want independence to them. We want them to be part of ours. Give them only two options, India and Pakistan. United Nations Security Council said, now you have two options. Either join India or join Pakistan. But this was not still acceptable to Pakistan. Why? Because Pakistan now realized that people of Jammu and Kashmir are under the grip of Sheikh Abdullah. Whatever Sheikh Abdullah tells people of Jammu and Kashmir, they will abide by it. Sheikh Abdullah will tell India, so we will lose Jammu and Kashmir. So the first step to carry out plebiscite was demilitarization. That means Pakistani army has to move out of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan did not agree to this, and this plebiscite could not take place. When this plebiscite could not take place, and when government of India also realized that we made a mistake in approaching the United Nations, we never thought that United Nations would take the side of Pakistan. It should have condemned Pakistan because Pakistan was the aggressor. It sent its army, its troops to Jammu and Kashmir. Pandit Nehru said, Sheikh Abdullah, come with me. Where? Let's go to Srinagar. And let's address the people of Jammu and Kashmir at the historic Lal Chowk. He spoke of a Persian couplet, Tu man shudi, mi man shudam. You are me, I am you, and nothing without you. Like romantic partner, Sheikh Abdullah and Pandit Nehru. And in this speech, Pandit Nehru is promising people of Jammu and Kashmir right to self-determination. You will have the right to decide what you want, whether you want to join India or you want to join Pakistan. If you decide to join Pakistan, it will hurt us, but we will accept it. If you join India, we will love it. We will give you that right to self-determination. And we will also give you a constituent assembly. What is a constituent assembly? A group of people whose job would be to write the constitution, draft the constitution of Jammu and Kashmir. Pandit Nehru was told, what are you doing? Pandit Nehru said, look what United Nations is saying. United Nations is saying that people of Jammu and Kashmir will get to decide whether they want to join India or Pakistan. We have to convince the world community that people of Jammu and Kashmir want India. So what are we telling them? We are telling them we will give you right to self-determination. But for that, Pakistan has to withdraw its army from Jammu and Kashmir. That is what United Nations has said. And we will give you a constituent assembly. You decide what should be the relationship of Jammu and Kashmir with India. You write your own constitution. You define your own constitution so that we can tell the world that it is people of Jammu and Kashmir, not us, not the ruler who has decided to shape the relationship between India and Jammu and Kashmir. But during this period, something else was also happening. Constituent Assembly of India was writing and debating its own constitution. So there was a Constituent Assembly of India writing and debating its own constitution, and now we are promising Constituent Assembly for the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Will Indian Constitution apply to J&K? Or do we have to wait till the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution is signed, adopted and enacted, which will define what should be the relationship between India and Jammu and Kashmir? What should we do? For that, there were negotiations. Negotiations between Gopalaswamy Iyengar, between Sheikh Abdullah, Pandit Nehru, Sardar Patel, they were also involved. And it was decided, let's have a temporary provision in Indian Constitution. Temporary provision in the form of Article 370 of the Constitution. Why temporary? Till the time Jammu and Kashmir has its own Constituent Assembly, which will frame its own constitution, and that constitution will decide the relationship, will define the relationship between India and Jammu and Kashmir. Till that time, what should be the relationship between the two countries? How should Indian Constitution apply to Jammu and Kashmir? For that, we should have a temporary provision known as Article 370. And what is this Article 370? Number one, it says only Article 1 and Article 370 applies to Jammu and Kashmir. Article 1, which says India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. This term, union of states, includes Jammu and Kashmir. So Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India. This Article 1 and Article 370, only these two articles of Indian Constitution will apply to Jammu and Kashmir. Okay. 2, 3. Now listen to me carefully. Instrument of accession signed by Maharaja with Lord Mountbatten transfers, gives 3 powers to the central government, to India: defense, external affairs, communication. We have union list. We have concurrent list. We have state list. Which means for Jammu and Kashmir, the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly will have the power to make a law on concurrent list, state list, every item in the union list as well, except these three. For the rest of the country, for the rest of the states, state legislatures can make law only on state list and concurrent list, not on the union list. But for Jammu and Kashmir, only these three subjects of the union list, defense, external affairs, communication, only these three powers are given to Parliament. Parliament can make laws for Jammu and Kashmir only on these three subjects. On all other subjects, it is the Parliament, it is the legislature of Jammu and Kashmir which has the power to make law. So whether it is banking, whether it is money, whether it is citizenship, the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly will have the power to make its own law. But can any other subject mentioned in the union list, that means apart from defense, external affairs, communication, can any other item mentioned in the union list be applicable to Jammu and Kashmir? Yes. How? For that, the president will have to issue an order. That is what we call as the presidential order. That means apart from defense, external affairs, communication, there are other items in the union list. Can any of these other items be applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir? Yes. How? President will issue an order. But president will issue an order only with the concurrence of the state government. Not consultation, concurrence. That means the central government is asking the state government, can we make a law for Jammu and Kashmir on citizenship, on extradition, on banking, on insurance? If the state government says okay, Parliament can make a law. If the state government says no, Parliament cannot make a law. So whatever advice is given by, whatever is communicated by the state government is binding on the central government. If the state government says no, Parliament cannot make a law on these items. But when we say only Article 1 and Article 370 of Indian Constitution applies to Jammu and Kashmir, does Article 2 apply? Article 3 apply? Article 4 apply? Citizenship chapter applies? Fundamental rights apply? Directive principles apply? Supreme Court applies? Election Commission applies? Finance Commission applies? CAG applies? Nothing applies. But can these provisions, other than Article 1 and Article 370, can other articles of Indian Constitution apply to Jammu and Kashmir? Yes. But with exceptions and modifications, as the president may specify. So can we apply fundamental rights to Jammu and Kashmir? Yes. How? For presidential order will be issued. But this presidential order can be issued only with the concurrence of the state government. If the state government says, don't apply fundamental rights, you cannot apply. If the state government says, okay, apply fundamental rights, but with these exceptions and modifications, president will have to accept those exceptions and modifications, which I'm going to tell you later what are these exceptions and modifications, and apply these provisions to Jammu and Kashmir. No amendment to Indian Constitution applies to J&K without concurrence of the state government. What if tomorrow they decide to amend it and say, no, the entire constitution is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir? This amendment to Indian Constitution will not apply to Jammu and Kashmir without the concurrence of the state government. Because now Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly has to decide what should be the relationship. And whatever decisions we have taken, let's say the state government says, apply fundamental rights. State government says, you can make a law on banking, insurance, citizenship, extradition. But all these permissions that we have given, we have to go back to Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir and tell them that we have given these permissions. Are you okay with that? If the Constituent Assembly says, no, we are not okay, that means you can't make a law. But since this is temporary provision, because till the time Jammu and Kashmir constitution is passed, Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly passes its own constitution, it's a temporary provision. This temporary provision will have a self-destruct clause. What is this self-destruct clause? Article 370 can be repealed, can be modified when President issues an order. But this time, with the concurrence of the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. We know the background of what happened in Jammu and Kashmir. We know the background, how the decision to approach the United Nations was wrong. In hindsight, it was wrong. At that time, it may have been correct, but in hindsight, it proved to be wrong. Now, the government of India is promising Jammu and Kashmir, we will give you a right to self-determination, plebiscite. But at the same time, we will give you a constituent assembly. So that if the world tells us tomorrow, how is Jammu and Kashmir an integral part of yours? We can tell them that Jammu and Kashmir has its own constitution. And that constitution decides and defines the relationship between India and Jammu and Kashmir. But Constituent Assembly takes a lot of time in drafting a constitution. The Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly finally adopted the constitution in 1956. But the Indian constitution will start being applicable since 1950. Since 1950 till 1956, how can we govern Jammu and Kashmir? What should be the relationship? For that, there was a temporary article known as Article 370. What does Article 370 say? There is union list, state list, concurrent list. State legislature of Jammu and Kashmir has the power to make law on all items mentioned in union list, state list, concurrent list, except the 3 items mentioned in the union list: defense, external affairs, communication. Article 370 says only Article 1 and Article 370 will apply to Jammu and Kashmir. But can other articles of Indian Constitution apply to Jammu and Kashmir? Can other items mentioned in the union list apply to Jammu and Kashmir? Yes. How? For that, President will issue an order. President will issue an order, a public order, and say, these articles are now applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. These items are now applicable, that Parliament can make a law on these items mentioned in the union list, other than defense, external affairs, communication. But for that, the concurrence of the state government is necessary. And no amendment to Indian Constitution will apply to Jammu and Kashmir, will automatically apply to Jammu and Kashmir without the approval of the state government. But Article 370 will cease to exist. Article 370 can be deleted because the Constitution itself says I can be deleted. Article 370 itself says I can be deleted. It has a self-destruct clause. It can destroy itself. How? President will issue an order and say from this date, Article 370 shall cease to exist or will exist, but with these modifications. But President cannot issue this order without the concurrence of the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. And then, when you look at the text of Article 370, it states, notwithstanding anything in the Constitution, provisions of Article 238 shall not apply to Jammu and Kashmir. Article 238, which talks about states in India. States are different, J&K is different. Those provisions will not apply to Jammu and Kashmir. The power of Parliament to make laws for the state shall be limited to those matters in union list and concurrent list, which in consultation with the government of the state are declared by President to correspond to the matters specified in Instrument of Accession. That means there are 3 matters mentioned in the Instrument of Accession: defense, external affairs, communication. Parliament will have the power to make laws on only these items. Can other items be added to the lawmaking power of the Parliament? Yes. President will issue an order with the concurrence of the state government saying you can make law on union list as well, concurrent list as well. That is your right. Such other matters with the concurrence of the government of the state, the president may by order specify that only Article 1 and Article 370 applies to Jammu and Kashmir. Such of the other provisions of the Constitution, other than Article 1 and 370, will apply to Jammu and Kashmir, but with the concurrence of the state government. But these provisions may not apply in their entirety. That means fundamental rights, the way they are, not really. Because these rights can be applied to Jammu and Kashmir with such exceptions and modifications. Notwithstanding anything in the foregoing provisions of this article, the President may, by public notification, declare that this article shall cease to be operative, or shall be operative only with such exceptions and modifications as from such date as he may specify, provided that the recommendation of the Constituent Assembly of the state before the President issues such notification shall be necessary. And then how this Article 370 was diluted on August 5, how Article 35A was born, and how it died. That's something that we will discuss on Monday. 6 o'clock, and then we will discuss how this presidential order was issued for the first time, and what is this most important presidential order of 1954. Then what happened in 2019, what happened in the intermediate period, and what and how can the Supreme Court decide on this matter. Because of this clause, do you find anywhere in the Constitution that in chapters that we have discussed that there is a clause which says that this fundamental right will cease to exist from this particular date? No. Can it be restored? Yes. For that, you have to pass a law by simple majority in Parliament, convert UT into a state. J&K, where is the Constituent Assembly? Article 370 is destroyed by the public notification issued by the President. For that, the recommendation of the Constituent Assembly is necessary. Then how was it done? We'll discuss on Monday. Come again on Monday. And governor, so both can promulgate ordinance. President promulgates an ordinance on all matters on which the Parliament has the power to make a law. So Parliament has the power to make a law with respect to Delhi. Lieutenant Governor can make a law can issue an ordinance on any item which is mentioned in the state list, other than law and order, land and police. Sir, which article is important to remember? From today's class, Article 370. Government, people of Jammu and Kashmir are part of India. They're part of the government as well. The President. So for Lakshadweep, we have an administrator. For Ladakh, we have an administrator. For Delhi and Puducherry, we have a lieutenant governor. For Jammu and Kashmir, we have a lieutenant governor. But in UTs, we don't have a governor because governor is of a state. Legislative Council and Legislative Assembly amends this bill. In this case, the bill goes back to Legislative Council for reconsideration. Bill again is passed in LC and further LC amends it. No, when the bill is initiated in Legislative Council, if it is rejected by Legislative Assembly, the bill is gone. If it is amended by the Legislative Assembly, those amendments will then become binding on the Legislative Council. They may want to drop that bill. Are you demotivated? Controversy at that time? Yes, there was controversy in Manipur as well. Ask him. I'm not his spokesperson. 6 o'clock in the morning. Till then, have a great time. Bye-bye. Goodbye. Have a great weekend.